they saw, you never received it. It all went to the El Chamis.
Correct.
Okay. Let me ask you to go to Defense Exhibit 118, please, Rob. And this is the settlement, alleged settlement offer that was sent to us back on January 5th. If you'll blow up the option number 1, Rob, please. In this offer, the first part of it, they're offering you $1.3 million on your home, with $200,000 to be paid down within 48 hours, and the remaining 1.1 million would be paid within 45 days of acceptance of this offer. Tell the judge, by the way, Judge, I'm only offering this testimony in the bill of exception. I don't want to offer it as in the trial's case in chief, and I know subsequently you're going to rule on that, but I don't want this to be a part of.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. This will be part of the bill.
Thank you, Your Honor. Tell the judge what you and your wife are concerned about with regard to whether or not the El Chamis will make good on this offer if you accepted it.
You know, at this point, at this juncture, we don't trust that they would perform on the offer that's submitted. We have a lot of hesitations.
And are you worried? Let's go to the next page, please, Rob. Top of the page, blow up 4, 5, 6, and 7. Do you have concerns that if you execute a general mutual release and a dismissal of this lawsuit and they don't perform, that you will lose out on something?
Yeah, so we would have to release all of our claims, and that's not something we feel comfortable with.
Would that, if you released your claims, do you have an understanding that all you're entitled to would be a lawsuit over making them close on a $1.3 million purchase offer, and all this other stuff is gone?
That's correct.
So you're considering those factors when weighing whether or not to accept or reject this offer?
That's correct.
Okay, and then
let me ask a question, Ms. Pettit, just so I can understand it, because I didn't really notice that before. So why is it a mutual non-suit instead of an agreed judgment?
We're fine doing either. I mean, we're happy. I believe I've expressed this to counsel before. We can abate it. Let's abate the whole case. If we don't pay, they can come right back where they left off. I've offered that to Mr. Scott at least once over the phone. Let's abate. Actually, I offered that to Mr. Ackles. I'm sorry, this is Mr. Ackles the night before trial. I said abate.
well, again, I object. These are settlement discussions, but
My main question is, you know, this is just a question because I have to evaluate, or I may have to evaluate is this a reasonable settlement? Is this because they're right? If you do a mutual non-suit, they can't enforce this through post-judgment enforcement actions. They'd have to file suit on the settlement agreement and then,
Yes,
and then try to get a judgment. And
yes, we are in agreement with the judgment so long as that's contingent on then conveying the property subject to, you know, free and clear of all liens. So I think there's probably a way to draft that, but yeah, assuming that we can get it drafted, they don't get a judgment for 1.3 and get to keep the house. But as long as we can draft it, we have no problem doing agreed judgment. Absolutely.
well, these are all settlement discussions, Judge, and it's not part of this offer. And I'm trying to point out, you know, if the judge decides they timely made this offer and you're entertaining the act, then I have to show, the client has to show that this is not a reasonable offer for a variety of reasons.
But what is 1, 2, 3? I see 4, 5, 6.
Rob, would you? Yeah, thank you, Rob. It's the money.
Let me see.
Can you blow up 1, 2, and 3, please? Thank you.
Interesting. Okay, that's helpful.
Okay, then I'll go back to the paragraph. You can leave it as it is, Rob. Paragraph 7, the non-suit with prejudice. And you understand with prejudice means you can't bring these claims back. Do you have that understanding?
Yes.
So your concern is that if you dismiss this lawsuit and sign this offer, accept it, and they don't perform, your damages are now limited to demanding they perform on this contract.
Correct.
Okay, and that concerns you. The last thing on option number 1 is that I think you've made this point, but I want to be clear that once you pay off your lawyers and your mortgage, this is effectively you're walking away from the house with nothing, right?
Yes, with nothing.
And we have exhibit. Let me find the right exhibit. Plaintiff's Exhibit 45, page 1 and 2, please. In addition to walking away with nothing, you've itemized for the judge on Plaintiff's Exhibit 45 some $84,000 of additional monies you've paid sunk into this property, and here they are. And of course, I believe it is in here, the $15,000 fence down payment is right there on page 4, the second page, page 404. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, thank you, Rob. So you've itemized, including the fence down payment, but all the other expenses that you've put in on this property over the course of the time it was being built that Sam and Dylan demanded you pay for, you've put in $84,819.48 into this property. Is that right?
We've put a lot more money than that in this property, but with the offer they've made, we'd essentially probably lose like $500,000.
Okay. I pass the witness, Your Honor.
Response? Any recross?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Zitoun, you said that if you take the offer in which you would be walking away with $700,000 more than your $600,000 loan, tell us how you would lose $500,000 on that.
Well, we put $200,000 down when we purchased the lot and got into the construction loan. We spent, as you saw, $85,000 out of pocket. We gave the El Chamies close to $130,000 in checks and cars. And we paid to construct the home over 2 or 3 years. That was another $100,000 with taxes and interest. And I mean, don't hold me to the 100,000. Maybe it was more like 50,000 or so. And so, yeah, we have in between $450,000 and $500,000 in this house. And at that offer, we would walk away with nothing.
But your testimony a moment ago was that you would lose $500,000. So I'm trying to calculate the things that you just told me add up to. Well, let me get my calculator out really fast.
We also spent $60,000 to get into the permanent loan.
You spent $60,000 for what?
To get into the permanent loan.
What was that $60,000 for?
It was to pay off all the construction amounts. We got a loan for $600,000 at the end, and we owed interest to the bank because of the delays by the builder of $10,000 to $12,000. We owed that last $40,000 draw that we paid off out of pocket, and so today we owe around $600,000, and we've spent in between $450,000 and $500,000 to build the house, to carry the house, to pay for overages, giving the El Chamies checks, and the initial down payment to get into the construction loan.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sense of your math, but I want to clarify one thing first. You said that you paid the final draw of $40,000 out of pocket?
Our permanent loan was $600,000, but the construction amount that was owed was $640,000. So to get into the permanent loan, we had to come up with $56,000.
But that wasn't for the final draw. The final draw was paid from Prosperity
Yeah,
too.
no, they're two separate things. You're asking me all the money we have in the house, and I'm just explaining all the money we have in the house.
Well, I just wanted to make sure you weren't, it sounded to me like you said that the final draw was paid for out of pocket by you, but that wasn't.
It was a little bit of a misspoken phrase, but it's,
Okay.
yeah.
So the amounts that you said a minute ago, you said $200,000 for the lot, 85,000, 130,000, and 50,000. Those add up to 465,000 by my math. If you walk away with $700,000 from this offer from Versailles, and you've got 465,000 you say to pay yourself back for those items, how do you lose $500,000? That's, the math doesn't work.
I think I've answered the question.
I have to admit the math doesn't work for me either, Mr. Zitoun. Why don't you answer the question?
The amounts that we spent for this house were close to 200,000 down when we bought the house and got to the construction loan. We spent $35,000 in interest. No, we spent close to $40,000 in interest while we were building the house. We spent another $40,000 in real estate taxes while we were building the house. We spent $85,000 out of pocket on different items. We gave the El Chamies $130,000, close to $130,000 in checks. We spent another $60,000 to get into the construction loan, and we have $600,000+ in attorney's fees.
I guess I don't. What do you mean it took you $60,000 to get into the construction loan? What does that mean?
When we got into the permanent financing of the matter, Your Honor, it was the construction amount owed was $640,000 with Prosperity. And when we got into permanent financing, we were only able to get a loan for $600,000 in permanent financing. And so we had to cover that difference of that money plus a lot of like interest for how long it took to finish the house. They're two different loans. So we owed $640,000 plus the interest was around $12,000. But we only qualified for a loan of $600,000. So we had to pay that
To pay off the construction loan, you had to pay extra
loan. Correct.
money than beyond what you did. Okay, I guess that makes sense.
Okay, I'm still adding up the amounts though, Mr. Zitoun, and the math still doesn't work for me. So you've said 40,000 in interest and taxes, 85,000 in the repairs, 130 in checks, which we'll deal with. We'll talk about those later. And the other,
it was 40,000 in taxes and 40,000 in interest, 80,000.
okay, plus the 85,000, plus the 130, which we'll talk about later, plus 60,000.
Plus 180,000 to get into the loan.
Okay, now it's 180,000 to get into the loan.
You have to look at I said I'll close to 200,000. That's what I said.
Okay. Even that comes to only 535,000.
And we
So-
have, okay, sorry, go ahead.
So if you walk away with $700,000 from the repurchase, and even by your math, at most it's 535,000, then how do you lose 500,000?
We have over 600,000 in attorney's fees.
And how much of that have you paid?
That's attorney-client privilege, I think.
You haven't paid any, have you? Mr. Zitoun, you haven't paid any, have you?
We've paid for many things out of cost in this case. We paid for all the expert witness fees. We paid for all the expert witness testimony. We've paid tens and tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars on this. And so
I object, Your Honor. The standard is reasonable necessary fees incurred. Whether or not what he's paid is not really the standard for the court to determine. It's whether or not they're reasonable and necessary, and whether or not they've been incurred. To some extent, it invades on the attorney-client privilege.
If I may respond, Your Honor.
Right.
I think he opened the door to this to saying that he's going to be in the hole $500,000 if he gets paid $700,000 more than he owes on it.
And the amount he's deducting for fees is a reasonable necessary amount for attorney's fees. And by the way, she's not including the mortgage, which is somewhere in the vicinity of 600,000 or more.
Nope, that was in my basic math.
No, it's not. You've got 600,000 for attorney's fees, 600,000 or plus for the mortgage. That's 1.2 million plus all the other things he added together gets you to something closer to 1.5, 1.6 million.
Okay, well, that's helpful. Is there a David Fetzer involved in this case? He's asking to come into the room, but I don't know who he is.
He's our next witness, Your Honor.
Okay, should I go ahead and let him in?
That's okay with us.
Okay.
Just so we're clear, Your Honor, we're objecting to that witness as not timely disclosed.
Okay, I don't know who he is, and I don't know what the issue is, so.
Well, if she's going to object, maybe we ought to have that heard outside his presence.
Oh.
It does.
Mr. Fetzer, let me go ahead and we're going to put you into a breakout room. They wanted me to talk. They wanted to got a question for me, so I'm going to put you into a breakout room, Mr. Fetzer. Can you hear me okay? Okay. And then Ms. Kreider, I'm going to send you with them and then text me when you, I'll text you when they can come back, okay?
Yes, Judge.
May I continue, Your Honor? I'll be brief.
Yeah, just give me a second.
Mr. Zitoun, in addition to the $600,000 in attorney's fees that you are seeking recovery for, isn't it true that your lawyers also have a 40% contingency on this case?
I object, Your Honor. That's not relevant. It's a reasonable necessary attorney's fees is the standard. And whether or not there's a contingency isn't relevant unless we present that evidence.
Well, it's in the engagement agreement that's been pre-admitted.
Overruled.
You can answer, Mr. Zitoun.
Yes.
Okay, so your lawyers apparently are owed $600,000 for you plus a 40% contingency.
Objection. That's a legal question, Your Honor. Again, the standard is reasonable and necessary attorney's fees. She's adding a contingency plus 600,000. That's your decision, Judge, not the client's decision. It's a legal question.
I'm going to overrule it. I'm just trying to figure this out. So are you basing your $600,000 you owe in attorney's fees on the fact that this is a contingency fee, or do you also owe $600,000?
It's 600,000, whether it's contingency or it's non-contingency. Because at that offer, if you take 40% of that offer, which is their agreement, it's close to 550,000 for attorney's fees. So we would walk away with next to nothing.
All right.
Mr. Zitoun, isn't the contingency in addition to the fees that your lawyers are saying they are owed, the hourly fees?
I don't know. I don't really know the specifics, the language. You'd have to ask them.
Okay. Your Honor, we reserve any remaining questions till after we've taken Mr. Zitoun's deposition.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Let's call our next witness.
We call the Fetzers, Your Honor. We might want to address that issue.
Yeah, let's deal with the issue first. What's the issue?
Yes, Your Honor. Discovery in this case closed on April 13th, 2020, pursuant to a Rule 11 agreement that I'm about to put on the screen. Give me one moment. Okay. I can find it. Give me 1 second. Okay, while I'm looking for that, there is a Rule 11 agreement, I'm sorry, that was dated April 13th, 2020, saying that discovery closes on August 17th, 2020. And then these witnesses for the first time ever were disclosed much later in November of 2020. So I will show you, I have the response to request for disclosure up right now. 1 second, I'll put it on the screen. Here is the response to request for disclosure where they were disclosed for the first time here. I'll zoom in And this is their November one. They've since amended and included them in the amended one, but this is the first time they were ever disclosed. And I'll go back up to the date. Which is, maybe they have it at the end. Give me just one second.
Sure what you're doing here.
I'm trying to show you the date. Okay, here we go. So they were first disclosed on November 6th, 2020.
Okay.
And here is the Rule 11 agreement showing that discovery closed in August.
Okay.
On that basis, Your Honor, they were not timely disclosed, and we object to their being.
Who is Mr. Fetzer, or who are the Fetzers?
My understanding is that they are some other homeowners like the Zitoun that Your Honor has heard from, that Versailles has built a home for, or Versailles built a home that they're now living in, is my understanding.
May I respond, Your Honor?
You may.
First of all, we went back and checked the pleadings and the discovery demands. Versailles Dallas never made a 194 demand for these disclosures. And so this was what we did in November, was a supplement. And I would point out that the Salahs, who were designated by us at the same time as either people who, as it's described in there, as people who had experiences with the El Chamis, that's pertinent to our pattern evidence that we're offering on our RICO case, and also becomes, Ms. Pettit opened the door to this by offering character evidence by by Salah Izzadeen, asking him whether or not he had an opinion about the honesty and reputation and what kind of home builder Mr. Samuel El Chami is. And she had no objection to the timing of that designation that we would call Mr. Salah. At the same time, we disclosed this witness because she considered it to be favorable to her case. But now that we have a countervailing witness that wants to testify very briefly about his and his wife's experiences buying a house from the El Chamis and what happened.
So were the Izzadeens, were they disclosed at the same time as the Fetzers?
Yes, Your Honor.
I don't want to misspeak on that. For some reason, I felt like they were disclosed before, but I don't want to misspeak on that. And we did object to the Izzadeens heavily, and Your Honor allowed them to testify. And also, give me 1 second. I'm.
Your Honor, while counsel is checking on that, I would also point out that we didn't know about these witnesses prior to August 11th. And the reason why we didn't know about all of this information is because we got zero cooperation from the El Chamis during this litigation. We even had to go through fighting a mandamus proceeding. So they wouldn't cooperate at any of the discovery. So we had to do all of this outside of the course of the court case, and then go and investigate and go and do that work. And I'll point out, Your Honor, that at no point after receiving this designation did counsel ever contact us and say, we'd like to take their deposition. We'd like you to agree to a continuance of the December 8th trial setting. And you'll remember, Judge, this case had been set for trial many prior times. And in all of these prior times, that other than one time that we consented, it was a jointly agreed trial setting, they continuously delayed this case. And during that time period that they're talking about, when discovery under that Rule 11 ended on August 11th, they didn't do anything with it. So we made a Rule 11 agreement. They had the right to take our clients' depositions. They didn't do it. They sent us a deposition notice. They never scheduled it. They had the right to inspect the property. We've talked about that previously. We gave them the time to do that and set all of that up. They never did it. Everything was just a ploy to delay this case and avoid this case from being tried on the merits. And Ms. Pettit's associate David Ortiego, I may be pronouncing his name wrong, when they came forward with this Exhibit 117, Defendants 117, they said to the court, the purpose of this trial is to get to the truth. And so I think the same thing.
I guess my concern is that, I've tried to be pretty reasonable to, both sides, giving you guys a chance. You already had one witness, and I don't recall, did you guys object to the Izzeddin's testifying?
He was in Spain. He was outside of subpoena range. There's no reason why he should have testified in this trial. Absolutely objected, vehemently.
But
I guess I just have to eventually draw a line. I don't know, you can't just keep bringing more and more witnesses in that are late. I let the Izzeddins testify. I don't know that I can just keep letting late designated witnesses testify. So I think at this point, I've been as laid back and easy as I can with both sides. You had your chance with Mr. Izzeddin. He obviously did not want to testify and kind of took it out on you, but I just can't keep letting people testify. So I'm going to go ahead and exclude Mr. Fetzer, and we're going to, if there's any more late designated witnesses, we're going to go ahead and exclude them as well. We just need to get this trial over with. So I'll bring him in and let him know.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Who do we have next?
Dylan El Chami.
Okay. Mr. Fetzer, are you there?
Yes, Your Honor.
I apologize for the inconvenience. It turns out you were late designated, and I'd previously let somebody in who was late designated who was going to testify about a similar matter to yours, and I just can't keep letting in late designated witnesses. So you've been excluded as a witness. You are free to go.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, you have a good day.
You too. Thanks.
All right, let's bring in the next witness.
Dylan El Chami, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Elchami, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
All right, you'll need to speak up just a little bit.
Please state your name.
Dylan El Shami.
Are you one of the owners of Versailles Dallas Inc., the defendant, one of the defendants in this case?
Yes.
I'm sorry, was your answer yes?
Yes.
And is the other owner your father, Samuel Chami?
Yes.
Are there any other owners to Versailles Dallas Inc. other than you and your father?
No.
And when you say Versailles Dallas Inc., would you say that you and your father are Versailles Dallas Inc.?
Yeah, we own that company.
And you do business under that name?
Yes.
And you and your father own and control the business done under the name Versailles Dallas Inc.?
Yes.
Okay. Are you the custodian of records for Versailles Dallas Inc.?
The custodian of records, could you explain that to me?
Do you not know what that means?
No.
So if you've sworn an affidavit that you're the custodian of records for Versailles Dallas Inc., you're telling us that you don't know what those words mean?
It was probably explained to me. So if that just means that I'm the one that holds records, yes. Yes.
So, but being the custodian means you have the control and maintenance duties of all those records. Do you have the control and maintenance duties of all records of Versailles Dallas Inc.?
Yes.
Okay. And does anyone else besides you have the control over the duties over the maintenance and keeping of the records at Versailles Dallas Inc.?
My father has some records as well.
Okay, so both of you have custodial duties over those records?
Yes.
Okay. Now, you've testified that a dispute arose between you and the Zitouns prior to the time the home was completed. Do you remember saying that?
Yes.
When did the dispute arise between you and the Zitouns initially?
Sometime near the end of the project.
Can you give me more specific date or month?
Give or take a few months, around May.
Well, what give or take a few months means when you say May, it could be August or it could be February. Can you be more specific of when the dispute between you and the Zitouns first arose?
Well, yes, sir. I think I'm being pretty specific. It was near the time that the Zitouns took ownership and moved into the property. Well, they always had ownership. Near the time they moved into the property.
Well, you've heard Jordan Zitoun's testimony that they moved in on his wife's birthday of May 29th. Is that the day the dispute arose? That would be May 29th, 2018.
Around that time.
Well, what does that mean around that time? Are you saying within days of that time or months of that time or weeks? What are you saying?
I don't remember the exact date, so I just don't want to answer untruthfully. It was sometime around that time that they moved in. It was within a month or 2 months. We had a disagreement about how they should allocate funds.
Would you please, Rob, bring up Plaintiff's Exhibit 26? Let's put up paragraph 10 of Exhibit 26, please. Paragraph 10, please, at the bottom of page 20. It says by the way, I'm sorry, I've got to show you what this document is. Back to page 1, please, Rob. Page 1 is of Plaintiff's Exhibit 26 is your declaration, one of your declarations that you filed in this lawsuit. Do you see that, Mr. El-Chami?
Yes.
Okay, and if you'll go to the last page of Exhibit 26, please, Rob. And that's your signature on the top of at the bottom of the page on October 12th, 2020?
Yes.
Okay, and above that, it says, I declare under the penalty of perjury that the foregoing is true and correct. You understood at the time you signed this document that you were doing so under the penalties of perjury. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now go to paragraph 10 at the bottom of page 20. And it says here, you say here, prior to the completion of the home, a dispute arose between the parties in connection with the defendant's failure and refusal to reimburse costs advanced by plaintiff, which were over and above the parties' gratuitous agreement. And then you go on to say, in April of 2018, plaintiff filed an affidavit for mechanics and material lien against the property and the real property records of Dallas County, Texas, as a result of defendant's failure and refusal to reimburse costs advanced by plaintiff, which were over and above the parties' gratuitous agreement. So you filed your lien as a result of the dispute that had arisen. Is that a true statement?
Yes.
Okay, and the lien was filed in April of 2018. Is that right?
Yes.
So the dispute arose prior to your filing of that lien. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yes.
Okay.
But
Now,
the dispute wasn't over the lien, so it's kind of a vague terminology. The dispute wasn't over why the lien was filed.
well, your words are here and pretty clear, are they not, in paragraph 10? The dispute was over their failure and refusal to reimburse costs advanced by...
Yes, but I thought you were speaking about the dispute of them moving in and allocating funds. And okay, so now I'm on the same page of what you're talking about. You just said a dispute. So...
is there more than one dispute?
Well, I mean, now, yes, sir, there's many disputes now. They blocked my number. We can't contact them. They signed a promissory note. They didn't perform on. We had a dispute at the end before they moved in about how they should allocate funds to finish the house. And they didn't, want to do it the way we recommended. And now we're in a lawsuit because those things were done incorrectly and we're being held responsible for them. There's many disputes. So I'm just I'm trying to be honest with you, and I'm trying to answer these honestly. I just need a little more context.
When is the first time a dispute arose between you and the Zitouns?
So, it was 3 years ago. From my recollection, we had a disagreement on how funds should be allocated to finishing the property.
But my question was when?
Sir, it was, I can't give you pinpoint dates because I don't have that good of a memory, and my memory is pretty good, but I can't tell you the exact dates. I think we also.
Okay, let me stop you there. You say that you had a dispute about how to allocate funds. Are you talking about the last $40,000 draw? From
The draws were just to pay me back at any time. So I was always, from the beginning.
My question, sir, my question was, are you talking about the $40,000 draw?
I'm talking about, I'm trying to give you a context of all the disputes we had.
I don't want to know that. I just want you to answer my question.
The draw is irrelevant.
Stop. Let me ask a question. When you said that there was a dispute about how to allocate funds, my question simply is, are these funds you're talking about the last draw of $40,000 from the bank?
No, sir.
Okay. So what funds are you talking about that there was a dispute on how to allocate?
There was a little more money left in the budget at the end. I'm not sure the exact amount, but it was enough to cover, the drainage plan, the grading, because you do the grading after the house is complete. You slope dirt, you bring in dirt, you slope it away, you slope the grade away from the house to drain water properly.
Mr. El Chami.
Tie in the gutters. You also
Mr. El Chami.
the French
Stop
drain.
for a second, please.
I'm answering your question, sir.
No, you're not. And I don't want to, we don't want to drag this trial any longer than it has to. I just want you to answer my question. All I asked you was, what money are you talking about that they didn't want to allocate the same way you did? What money are you talking about?
So the budget we had with the bank, there were a few line items, and we said, hey, you should use the rest of the money that you can draw from the bank to do grading and drainage and tie in the gutters, the French drain system. You don't have much left. They wanted.
Okay, so your answer is.
Well, hold on. The witness didn't even finish his response. I think it's getting argumentative at this point, Your Honor.
Yeah, you're kind of cutting them off.
They didn't have fence in the budget, sir. And I told them, you don't have a fence in the budget. You don't have this extravagant landscaping plan you want to put in the budget. And they decided, and it wasn't so much a dispute. We were friends the whole time. It's not really a dispute. I'm just trying to be honest and answer your questions. They just went and did things their own way instead of allocating, instead of paying for what they needed to do to properly finish the home. They just decided to go their own way about doing it. So
I object. That answer is non-responsive. But I guess I'll ask another question.
Okay.
So we're clear, the money you're saying that you fought about how to spend was loan money from Prosperity Bank. Is that correct?
no, what I was trying to tell the Zitouns is we need to take money from this budget and apply it here, here, and here. They decided to apply money in other areas in the home. So that, I know that you're going to keep going back to the draws that I took from the bank. From the beginning, the bank and the Zitouns, every draw I took, Jordan and Aaron were fully aware. I met with Jordan before I ever took a, draw. We discussed it. And the bank made from the beginning, they made it very clear, you can draw on whatever you want to pay yourself, because I know you guys are owed money. It does, as long as the 507 doesn't exceed, we're okay with it. You can draw money.
Well, I guess I'll have to ask my question again because I'm not sure I understood your answer. The money you're talking about is the bank loan money. Is that right?
There was, the Zitouns were spending some money. We were spending money out of pocket. There was bank loan money. So I'm just trying to be honest, I'm just trying to be honest, Mr. Ackles.
So what money were you disputing on how it would be spent? Was it bank loan money or all of this money that you're talking about?
The budget, on how they should use the budget.
Where was the money going to come from to fund the budget?
The money was going to come from either the bank or the Zitouns, but we covered a lot of it out of our own pocket.
Okay. So this dispute arose. You filed a lien in April of 2018.
Yes, because I was asked to file a lien by the Zitouns and by Jason Boley.
I haven't asked you a question yet, sir. And Your Honor, might I ask that the witness be instructed to just answer the question asked?
Yeah, I think you're kind of jumping the gun a little bit here. Just let him ask us questions. Your attorney will have an opportunity to ask you questions as well. So just, you're jumping the gun.
Yes, Your Honor.
Despite the fact that you had multiple disputes with the Zitouns, beginning on or before the time you filed the lien in April and continuing through May and June and July, did you throw away documents related to this case and the Zitoun project prior to filing the lawsuit?
Before disputes arose, or before I knew I was going to be in a lawsuit, I had papers in my car all the time. I didn't hold on to everything, assumed some things would be on digital. So I'm sure, yes, I threw away papers.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the last thing you said.
Yes, I'm sure I threw away some things before there was any disputes or anything that arose. I don't hold on to everything when I'm building a house. I would have a lot of papers.
So the answer to my question is yes, you did throw away documents related to this project prior to filing this lawsuit?
Yes.
And do you know what documents you threw away?
I have no clue, sir.
Where were the documents located that you threw away?
I don't remember. I'm just like I said, trying to be honest. I'm sure I've thrown away documents relating to this project.
Did you throw away building plans, soil reports, engineering studies, anything of that sort prior to filing this lawsuit?
I don't remember, sir.
Do you remember going to your car and taking things out of your car that were relevant to this lawsuit and throwing them away?
No, not specifically relevant to this lawsuit.
But you know you threw things away relevant to this lawsuit.
Sir, with all due respect, you throw things away out of your car and, things sitting on your desk that aren't relevant to what you're working on anymore, right? That's what yes, I throw away papers. I don't want to,
When do you remember you remember giving your deposition in this case, don't you?
Yes.
And you took an oath before you gave that deposition, right? Just as you've done today.
Yes.
And the court ordered you to give that deposition. You remember that, don't you?
Yes, I do.
And do you remember me asking you, can you be more specific about what it is in terms of documents regarding this project that you threw away before you filed suit against my client? Do you remember saying it was just general papers? You were not sure?
Yes.
And do you remember me also asking you, would you have thrown things away regarding this project out of your file before you sued my client? Do you remember saying, of course, it wasn't it's not in any trophy room?
Yes.
But then I asked you specifically what it is you're throwing away, but you cannot identify it, right?
Yes, all the important documents were left at the job site daily. The full set of plans were there per the city ordinance for the inspector to check and review. I mean, when you asked me that question in the deposition, I generally answered it as truthfully as I can. Yes, I threw away documents. Of course, I've thrown away papers.
But then you never produced any of them. What happened to them when you left the job site? What happened to all the important papers related to the job site?
I produced everything I had, every single thing I had. Everything I could find and that I searched for, I produced.
So we don't all we have, if you'll remember Defendant's Exhibit 117, if you'll put that up, these are the only approved plans that y'all provided us, and you didn't provide them until the first day of trial.
My father told you that he found them in the warehouse at the last minute, and he just produced them as soon as he did.
I understand that, but you said I've produced everything, and all of a sudden new documents come up, and this document, if you'll blow up, Rob, that stamp on the left side of the Defendant's Exhibit 117, it was, I don't know if we can read it, but it looks like 9/20/16. These plans have been approved to start construction. Maybe blow that up a little larger. That box, yes. And I think we have exhibit one set. Do you have 117A, Rob, that we can see what that? Scroll down and see if that 117A has that box in it. It's this language. I don't know that we have. Let's go to the previous page. I don't know if we have that blown up. Okay, just, you can take that exhibit down. Did you also represent, take that exhibit down, please. Did you also represent that you never waived your jury trial to the court in one of your affidavits?
Objection relevance.
Yeah, that's not something I'm decided in this case, so let's move along.
Did you hear your lawyer argue an opening statement that you were the builders of this home on paper only?
Yes,
Have you testified that in your deposition that you were the builders of this home on paper only?
yes.
Do you still stand by that statement, or do you now acknowledge that Versailles was the builders of this home?
As I explained to you in the deposition, we put our name on the papers for the Zitouns as they asked us as a favor. We helped them get their loan with the bank as friends. We provided them with as much help as we could, just as you would for a family member. We gave them, and they asked us for contractors and subs and contacts and everything. We gave that to them. But was I just the only builder on this house? That'd be hard to say yes to.
I didn't ask you that. I asked you, was Versailles the builder of this home?
On paper, yes.
Was Versailles the builder on this home, not just on paper, but the actual builder of the home?
I would say it was more of a collaboration with the Zitouns. The Zitouns were there making a lot of building decisions.
So let me ask you to
blanket myself over. Yes, I was the builder. That's why I'm answering this way.
And do you remember me in the deposition asking you, were you the builder on this project or not? And you answered yes. And I asked you, were you the builder on this project? And you answered yes.
I remember there was a lot of verbal, you were trying to get me to say something you wanted me to say, and I was trying to answer it clearly and truthfully. I remember there was a lot of builder talk. You were asking me quite a bit about the builder, and I was telling you the same thing as always. I was the builder on paper for them. I helped them get their loan approved with the bank because they required a builder with the City of Dallas contractor number. But the Zitouns, you know, Aaron is a designer. Mr. Zitoun is a seasoned real estate investor. He invests his own projects. From the beginning, it was made clear that, hey, we're not paying you anything because you're not gonna have to be there so much. We're not gonna, you know, don't worry about putting your time and management fees in the budget because we're gonna be there a lot of the time, making a lot of the, helping you build the house and helping make a lot of the decision.
Your Honor, I'd ask that the witness be admonished to answer the question asked and we get out of this thing quicker. These long diatribes that go beyond the scope of the question.
I mean, I agree with you, but also some of your questions are a little bit unclear. So
Okay.
if you could maybe focus your questions a little more, and then if the witness could also focus his answers a little more.
Would you, Rob, put up the Dylan L. Chami deposition, page 19? I think you have that.
I need beginning and ending line numbers. I have it synchronized to the video, so we would have to play the video.
Page 19, line 14.
Once again, I would need a starting and ending range to play that part of the deposition.
Oh, I'm just looking for the text.
I don't have just the text.
Oh, you don't have the text? I may
No.
have it. I may have to be able to pull it up. Give me a second, Your Honor. I'm going to figure out.
Actually, I can. Go ahead and tell me what you want.
It's on page 19, line 14. Okay, maybe make that a little larger, please. Okay, you remember me asking you, you're saying that Versailles was not the builder on the project? And your response was accept on paper, correct?
I said basically yes.
And then I said, oh, and you're saying Dylan El-Chami was not the builder on the project except on paper, correct? And you said yes?
Yes.
And you're saying Sam El-Chami was not the builder on the project except on paper, correct?
Yes.
And then you said we were the builder of the project technically, as I told you.
Yes.
And then if you'll go to the next page, please, at line 15, I said, I'll give you a free shot. After you gave a statement similar to what you're saying today, you were assisted the Zitouns, clear it up for the judge. Were you the builder on this project or not? And you answered yes, correct?
Yes.
And then I asked you, were you the builder on this project? And you said yes.
Yes.
And I said, Dylan El-Chami was the builder of this project. And you said Versailles was the builder on the project. Unqualified. Do you agree with that statement now? Or are you still adhering to only on paper?
You forced me into answering this how you wanted. I tried my best to keep answering the question during the deposition, and you basically bullied me into giving you the answer you wanted. So I'm giving you the honest truth. I signed a piece of paper for the Zitouns. I funded most of the project, all of the project for the Zitouns. I even went out of pocket and over and above what I promised. And so did my father for the Zitouns. And I'm just trying to give you the honest answer. They asked us to sign a paper for the bank because they couldn't get the loan themselves. They weren't builders. They didn't have city contractor numbers. They didn't have they had experience building, but they didn't have all the Rolodex of subs and contractors we had. They asked us for aid and help in building this house. I'm just trying to be honest, sir.
Did you have builder's insurance on this project?
We did have builder's risk, yes.
Did you have a general liability policy on this project?
I don't remember.
Did you produce any such policy to your lawyers in this case? Because we have not received one.
I believe so, but you also got discovery from Prosperity Bank. Prosperity Bank required us to have builder's risk insurance the entire time in order to receive draws. And I believe it was about $1,400 per year, and we had it for 3 or 4 years.
Where's the policy?
I'm not sure. The reason I don't have it directly is I remember my insurance agent responded directly to Becky. I believe her name was Trevatharin. She was just an assistant with the bank, and she was processing a lot of documents. I think my agent sent it directly to her.
Have you ever seen a copy of the policy?
I believe I did during that time when she sent the email to Becky. I think I saw. I mean, the bank required us to have the policy to get draws, and I know I paid on the policy.
Do you have a reason why it wasn't produced, or was it in the documents you threw away?
No, sir. I don't know if it wouldn't have been in the documents I threw away, but I'm not sure. I just couldn't find it on I found everything. You know, when you go to look when I went to produce for you, I went into my email, I typed in Jordan Zitoun, I typed in Aaron Zitoun, I typed in Martin Rule, I tried my best to produce everything, sir. But you should have it as per the discovery in the bank, because I know they did have it on file. They asked me for it. You know, I connected them directly with Allison. If you want to search for emails, Allison, Becky, there was some conversation. There was an insurance policy.
To my knowledge, no builder's risk or any insurance policy was produced to us by the bank, to my knowledge.
Okay.
Can you identify where one was produced?
No.
There was no insurance policy, to my knowledge, produced in the request for disclosures to your side. Do you have any reason, do you know why no such policy was produced to us in this lawsuit?
I just probably couldn't find it when I was producing Discovery.
When you finally did produce some checks written by Versailles on this project, do any of those checks reflect payments made for a builder's risk or a general liability policy of insurance?
I'm not sure, but I do remember it going through my bank account, so I'm sure it's on some of those statements.
So if you did have payments to those policies, you would have evidence of it. Is that right?
Yes.
Has it been produced to us?
No.
Have you produced any
I'm
receipt?
sure. Maybe it has been produced to you. The bank should have it. As I said, I mean, I produced everything I have. There's nothing I have to hide in this case, sir. Nothing.
Have you
I
produced?
Insurance policy. I know that I paid for it. And I told you how I know that. I connected Becky and Allison, my insurance agent at the time, who I believe they closed offices. I connected them because they would not fund us any of the draws if we didn't have an valid insurance policy on file with them. I remember that was having a, you know, I thought, well, shoot, I'm not even, you know, this is crazy because
So this is not a discovery dispute. What are we doing here? Why are we asking if he didn't produce an insurance company that should have produced in discovery? We're not fighting over discovery right now. So what are we doing here?
Your Honor, they charged us $5,000 for insurance, and they produced no insurance, no copy of a policy, no check, no payment, nothing. And so we don't believe that if they defend by saying they made a payment, it's their burden of proof and it's an affirmative defense. We've received nothing, and we're going to ask the court to reimburse us for the money they were paid for these policies that they never produced. So these are the reasons I'm asking these questions.
That's fine. Okay, go ahead.
Did you produce a single receipt for money spent by you, by Versailles, or you or your father with regard to this home to us?
I produced everything I could, sir. The reason this seems like it was very sloppy is because the Zitouns were friends and we were building for no profit, and we knew that all along. They knew that our any time we gave them was just generous time. We were just trying to help them. They were very close to us, and they asked us for a favor. So I didn't have detailed books and records like I would be if I was invoicing clients all the time. We used the budget they had. We incurred overages. We covered it for them. We were always verbal with them. They'll cover things. They'll do that. So I didn't have a file, which per se, of here's everything I have spent. And I didn't. So when it came to production of these discoveries, it wasn't the easiest task. But I am telling you, if you really want to find out about the insurance, you can ask the bank or check the records that you subpoenaed them for. We did have a policy on file with them. And I do remember it was around $1,400 per year. And we had it for 3 or 4 years on this project.
Do you remember what my question was?
Yes. Did I have an insurance policy? Did I pay for one?
That was not my question.
Okay. Would you please give me a
Did
question?
you produce a single receipt for something you or your father or Versailles purchased with regard to this home?
We didn't keep receipts for this project, is what I'm trying to tell you.
So your answer is you did not produce a single receipt because you didn't keep any receipts. Is that right?
Maybe I produced what I had, sir.
Well, we haven't seen a single receipt. Have you seen one?
How did the house get built? There was obviously receipts. I'm not trying to hide things from you guys. There was receipts. I don't have all the receipts. I produced everything I do have for you.
Okay. Could those receipts have been thrown away by you?
Maybe.
Traditionally, when you order something or pay someone, you get an invoice. Did you produce any invoices for any work done or product or material purchased on this job?
We produced everything we had.
Do you have a single invoice in your records?
I produced everything I have for you, sir.
Do you remember seeing a single
The
invoice?
house doesn't just get built for free. I mean, someone paid for the lumber packages, and usually, you know, the lumber companies, friends of ours, call us, give me payment. And I'm not sure how we made that payment at the time. We you know,
Okay.
contrary to what the picture you're painting, we have good relationships with all these vendors. We've never not paid them. So I don't have just invoices sitting around, stacks of invoices that I threw away and hid from this case, if that's what you're getting at.
Is it customary at Versailles to save invoices and receipts for projects you work on?
This is a father and son business, and we do it just as a bonding thing. So my dad builds homes for fun and passion. I do it with him. So it's not so much that we're like a big construction company with a big office, and we go and file our receipts and stuff. It's just, hey, Dad, how much do we spend? Put it on a note on the phone. Okay, add up, and then at the end we hope to make some profit on, you know, typical deals that we do. So I don't, you know, it's I get what you're trying to get at. I don't have just stacks of receipts or things sitting around and invoices.
Do you remember what my question was?
Did I produce a single receipt?
That was not my question.
What was your question?
So I need you to listen to my question and answer my question. The question was, is it customary at Versailles to save receipts and invoices on projects you work on?
I answered that question very clearly.
Yeah, I think he answered that. Let's move along.
Okay. When you drew up the plans evidenced by Defense Exhibit 117, why were they not going to be the plans that were actually built?
So I don't want to get caught in language here. You're just going based off my memory. So can you ask the question again? I need to be careful.
Why were the what you built for the Zitoun's home not the same as the plans drawn as evidenced by Defense Exhibit 117?
Well, anything that was built was approved or requested by the Zitouns or designated for our contractors or someone to do by the Zitouns. We didn't just go out and build something based on our preference. They asked us to.
Okay, but why did you ever tell the Zitouns that the city wouldn't approve certain plans?
The city did reject certain plans based on the lot parameters that the lots that Zitoun asked us to build on. We thought it was one lot. And when we submitted a first set of plans, it was rejected because there's actually multiple lots. So we went back to the drawing board and did adjust plans for that.
Are you saying that the first set of plans was submitted on one lot only?
No, sir.
Were the plans you submitted, that's Exhibit 117, Defense Exhibit 117, on more than one lot?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so are you saying those plans were rejected by the city because they were on more than one lot?
Yes, sir.
So are you saying the city told you could only build on one lot?
Yes, sir.
So you had to build this house on one of the 4 lots. Is that your testimony?
Yes, sir. You can't encroach lot lines from my understanding what the city told us. You can't cross over lot lines when you're building a house. And Mr. Zitoun told us he purchased a lot. So as a builder, you say, okay, what do you want to build? This is what we want to build. So we worked back and forth with the city. I'm not sure if they allowed us to use multiple lots from memory, but we did what the city wanted, what the Zitouns wanted. The first one was rejected though, because it was encroaching some lots that the city didn't like.
I'm just going to make sure I'm understanding you correctly. You're saying the drawing evidenced by Defendant's Exhibit 117 was rejected by the city ultimately?
No. I was telling you, asked me about the first set of plans, I thought.
I thought that's what Exhibit 117 is.
No, there were multiple set of plans, sir. I think Russ told you in his testimony there's 3 or 4 sets of plans trying to go back and forth with the city to get it approved and get the Zitouns what they wanted built.
Rob, would you put up Exhibit 117 again, please? Defendant's Exhibit 117.
Why don't we do this? Let's go ahead and take our afternoon break. We'll reconvene in about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
waiting for the judge to come back. I had asked you guys if you wanted me to set the Zoom up for the depositions tonight, like we did last week's. If you guys wanted me to, I could set that up and send links out.
We have a court reporter that is sending it out, but I appreciate it.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, everyone, I'm back, and we will get started again. Let's go ahead and proceed with the testimony.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. El-Chami, just want to make sure I understand that, can you blow this exhibit up, Rob, in the lower area, so where the lot names are? This exhibit shows this house is built. This is Defense Exhibit 117, which is dated, approved 9/20/16, and it shows the home is being built on Lot 3 and Lot 4. Do you see that, Mr. El-Chami?
Yes.
Okay, and did the city approve the building of this home on Lots 3 and 4?
Yes, sir.
Okay, could this home have been built on Lots 1 and 2?
I don't believe so. I can't truthfully answer those questions though, because I didn't ask the city specifics. We would just send them plans, the designs that Zitoun's approved, and we all came up together. And then if the city would approve it, we would go with it. If not, we would go back and redraw it.
But you had, I'm sorry, go ahead.
This lot was not your average, you buy a lot like on the corner and it's one lot and you build in the center and stick to the variances, multiple lots put together. So there's a little bit more to it.
Who was dealing with the city on behalf of Versailles?
My father was, I possibly had some conversations with them. I'm going based off memory, but Mike, who we brought up in the past, he was the runner that we were using at the time, and he had experience working at the city of Dallas. He was basically like a permit processor, and he would go and take notes and bring us back his notes to work off of, and he would take the plan, see if they get approved or not, and then bring back the rejection or the approval and let us know why it was rejected if it was.
And did the city, I just want to be clear, did the city tell you could not build this house across 2 lots?
Well, no, we were eventually able to from this final plan, but at the beginning, the first design we submitted, we were not able to build across certain lots. I'm just not sure which ones they were and why.
Okay. But so you're saying you were either not able to build across lots 3 and 4, or you were not able to build across lots 1 and 2. Is that your statement?
I'm whatever the city approved here. It's not that cut and dry simple with them. I think, my father pulled a miracle with them to get this approved. They didn't really want anything encroached at the beginning, and then they allowed certain things, and so I'm not sure what they would or would not allow, but they did allow this plan.
We'd have to ask your father that question. Is that your testimony?
Yes.
Okay, let's now, if you'd put up plaintiff's exhibit 41, please. At page, and I'm going to refer to page 319, the bottom number, which is it's not actually a Bates label number, but it's our number on this document. If you'll go to the top, it shows that a building inspection application, and this is submitted by you. Is that right, Mr. El-Chami?
Yes.
And it's for the property at Maple Springs. Is that right?
Yes.
And this is dated, received or dated approximately, it says received August 30th. Is that at the top left-hand corner? Is that on May 17, 2016 that you submitted this?
Yes.
Okay, and it says the company name is Versailles Contractor. Is that your company?
Yes.
And it says that you're going to build a total valuation of this house is going to be $490,888, and it's going to be 4,679 square feet. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, let's go down to the right here. It says for office use only, who fills this portion of the application in?
The city of Dallas,
Okay.
I believe.
And is that your signature on the top right-hand side of the screen?
Yes, it appears to be.
Okay, let's highlight this language here. It says, I have carefully read the completed application and know the same is true and correct, and hereby agree that if a permit is issued, all provisions of the city ordinances and state laws will be complied with, whether herein specified or not. I am the owner of the property or the duly authorized agent. Permission is hereby granted to enter the premises and make all inspections. I affirm that the email address given above may be used for official communication concerning this application and permit. Is that standard language that's put on these forms for you to sign?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, and so you basically are acknowledging that you will build this home consistent with all provisions of the city ordinances and state laws. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, down here below in the subject to field inspector approval, he writes, the city inspector writes, applicant found permits for lots 3 and part of 4. The remainder is lots 1 and 2, making lots 1 and 2 a legal build site. Do you acknowledge that you could have built this house on the lots 1 and 2?
Maybe if based on what this says, all found permits for lots 3 and 4, remainder is lot 1 and 2, making lots 1 and 2 legal build site. Yes.
Okay, but you actually claim that you have built this house on lots 3 and 4. Is that correct?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay.
That's what Exhibit 117 is built over, 3 and 4, not 1 and 2.
Can you show us Exhibit 117 again, please, Rob? Defendant's Exhibit 117. And we'll come back to this one if that changes anything. Zoom in on the lower half of that where the lot numbers are. It shows lot 3 and lot 4, and the house is built on both those lots. You see that?
Yes.
Okay, so you're saying that the final house was built on lot 3 and 4,
Yes.
and lot 1 and 2 are to the left of this. Is that right?
I'm not sure, but does it show lot 1 and 2 here?
I can't tell, but we might have another exhibit that will. But let's go back to Exhibit 45. Plaintiff's Exhibit 41, please. Down here on the right side, fee calculation. Scroll down to the bottom, please. It says $1,626.75 for the fees, for the plan review fee of $150 and other fees, $15 and $1,461.75 for the permit. Do you see all that?
Yes.
And that's the amount the city charges you for this permitting and plan review and anything else, right?
For this specific permit and plan review, yes.
Okay. If you don't mind, go to the next page on Plaintiff's Exhibit 45. And this is a submission at the top left. It says February 24th of 2017 for an additional 255 square feet of space. Is this for the bathroom addition?
I don't recall, sir. These questions, I'm going to try my very, very best to answer them truthfully to you, but I was, this was a lot of back and forth between Jordan, Aaron, my father, Russ, and Renee, and Mike at the city, and me. And so what you see is what you have there, but I'm just going to try my best to answer these for you.
Scroll down, Rob.
I wasn't the only one directly involved with this process. I was more indirectly involved with this process, but I did sign and submit for them as a favor to the Zitouns and helping them get approvals with the city.
You're not denying that when you sign this, you're confirming and affirming the statements made to the left of your signature, are you?
Yes.
You are denying that, or you're not denying?
My signature is to verify that statement.
Okay. Let's look at the next page, please. 321 of Plaintiff's Exhibit 45. At the same day of February 24, 2017, you're submitting a redesign of the garage of the location. Is that right?
It looks like it.
You're still building a 4,900 34 square foot house and the total valuation that you represent to the city is $424,324, correct?
I thought it was yeah. Yes, it should have been 499. That looks like a mistake because the first one said 499, but the city didn't mind, I guess.
What looks like a mistake?
The 424, because of the first application said we were building one for 499, so it was maybe a mistake on my part.
Okay, and this is based on the original permit issue of September 20th, 2016, which was the one we looked at previously, the original permit, right? Defendant's Exhibit 117.
I believe so. I'm not sure, sir. I believe so. I don't even remember seeing these because it was 3 years ago, so I'm just doing my best to give you.
When did you start actually building this home?
The exact date, I'm going off memory again. So it was shortly after these permits were issued. I know we did start like late 2016.
What did you do to start building this home in late 2016?
Just what you do with building any home: site prep, lot preparation, clearing the brush. There's lots of trees on that lot. It was like a mini forest on that lot. So I remember the first steps where we started clearing the lot. Did
you have final plans set? Did you have final plans set when you started building the home?
Yes, of course. Whatever the city permitted, that's what we started building.
Well, the city permitted the Exhibit 117, which is a different, let's go back to Defendant's Exhibit 117, please. Now this has at the top a U-shaped driveway at the very top. Do you see that?
Yes, the driveway we recommended being built.
Okay, and if you'll scroll down, right there, the first item is a bedroom. Is that right? Facing the driveway.
Yes, but the Zitouns wanted to move the bedroom and put the garages so they could have access from Maple Springs, and they didn't want their master bedroom on Maple Springs Boulevard.
Did you hear my question?
Yes, I answered that for you because we keep going back to this, and you're saying that we're not building the house that was there. All we did was move a room. And
I understand that, but you said you were building the house according to the permit issued in September 20th, and this is the house that they permitted you build. It has a bedroom where the actual garage is, correct?
But you just showed me a separate application fee that says we're going to move the location of a room.
My question is, doesn't this permit say build the bedroom right where it says on Exhibit 117?
Yes, and I'm answering that by saying you just showed me an application fee to move a room, and that's what we were moving, and I believe in that application fee. So we did still build in accordance, and we did ask to move that room, and we did do that based on what the Zitouns asked us to do.
Okay, and then down here, scroll down, please, Rob.
It was just modified. The plan was modified.
I know, but the question is, did you get city approval to modify these plans and submit modified plans to the city for approval?
Yes, they don't. I don't think when it's interior walls like that, the city doesn't require you to redraw and resubmit a whole set. They just want the application fee, which is what I believe you just showed me. I'm just going off memory and what you're showing me here. I believe you just showed me the application fee. We told them we're doing that. They said, okay, you can do that. And then they charged us. And then we did that, and they came and inspected and approved it.
So it's your testimony that if you move the garage to where the bedroom is and the bedroom to where the garage is and make other changes on the house, it's your testimony that you do not need city approval to or submission for new plans to the city. Is that your testimony?
I'm saying I believe, yes, I'm saying I believe you don't have to submit a whole new set of plans if you want to just move interior walls. And that's all. We didn't move the foundation. We didn't change anything structurally with the building. So they don't require a whole new set of plans for that. I think.
Okay, Rob, if I'm sorry, were you not finished?
No, I was not finished. I believe you're able to move interior walls, and as long as the city comes and inspects and approves that, and you let them know you were doing it, you can do that. Just based on my experience.
All right, if you'll zoom out a little bit on 117, the lower portion of the home right in the middle of the plat is the garage. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, how are they supposed to get their cars into that garage according to these plans?
We were trying to get these plans approved with the Zitouns, with the city, per the Zitouns' request on what they wanted. So we understood with the Zitouns, hey, we need to just submit these plans, see if they'll accept them. If they accept them, we can always move interior walls and stuff. That was an understanding conversations we had. So it wasn't like we knew what we were doing all along. We were submitting these plans, seeing if they'd approve them, because this was a strenuous process to get a house even approved on this lot that was stretching multiple crossing lot lines. The city really did not like this project at all. So due to budget constraints, and we had gone through so much planning and so much time on this. I mean, we went through more planning time on this than the house you brought up in earlier testimonies that my dad's building for Salah. It's about 20,000 square feet. That was nowhere near to as strenuous as this process of planning this home, just because of the lots. So yes, we did submit this. We always understood that we're going to move the garages. Obviously, we're not incompetent to understand that you can't have a driveway and then a garage there. The Zitouns always wanted their bedroom on Maple Springs Boulevard. We were simply trying to save them money and save ourselves from incurring more costs by submitting this, seeing that the city would approve it, and then we had plans to go back and re-amend this plan.
Do you remember what my question was?
Could you ask it again?
Do you remember what it was?
Yes, you asked me if we built this that the city approved.
No, that's not my question. So
Could you ask it again? I mean,
let me make sure I'm clear.
I'm trying to make this go by quickly as well, sir. If I ask you, can you ask it again? You can just tell me the question.
Okay. How were the Zitouns supposed to get their cars into the garage according to this plan?
I answered that, I believe. We planned to move the garage always on Maple Springs Boulevard.
Okay, so when you submitted these plans to the city, you knew this was not the house you were going to build for the Zitouns. Is that your testimony?
There's room to drive into the garage. So if you wanted to, you could drive to the garage on this plan.
Are you saying they're supposed to drive across their lots, the grass, to get to their garage?
Well, you could modify the driveway and pour a driveway to the garage if you wanted to.
But you didn't do that.
What I'm saying is the Zitouns always wanted we had this set of plans. The Zitouns and the city, between going back and forth with the Zitouns and the city, where we could do things and where we couldn't do things. And it was, what I was trying to tell you is it was not a cut and dry, this is what we're going to do process. It was, let's see if they'll let us do this. Let's submit it and try. We were just simply helping them do what they wanted to do. So
okay, I'm going to
all these plans, and they knew that the garage was there. They knew the driveway. They weren't blind to the whole process. They're involved heavily in the entire process. We didn't just say, we want to build this and we're going to do it like that. We're going to submit this and do that. We were simply trying to help them get this done. And we did get this done for them.
Okay, if you will look at, I want to look at 117A. I want to focus on these general notes that are attached to Exhibit 117. And if you'll go to the next page, this is, I'm actually looking for the general notes number 1. That's not the general notes. It's this one. Does 117A?
And they could have left the plan as it was if they wanted to. We could have always poured a driveway over to the garage.
Yeah, there it is.
But they didn't want to do that.
I'm just curious. You've represented to the city and got approval to build the house evidenced by Defense Exhibit 117, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And the general notes on 117, number 1 says all construction shall be done in strict conformance of these plans and all applicable municipal codes and standards. Do you see that?
Yes.
Was the construction, the ultimate construction on the Zitoun's home in strict conformance with Exhibit 117?
Yes, sir. And you just showed me an application fee to move walls. So everything was applied for by the city. They won't approve things and give us the green tags they gave us if we didn't do that. So yes.
You're saying a green tag takes the place of a formal submission to the city for approval to modify your plans. Is that your testimony?
My testimony is you just showed me a formal submission to the city of application to modify the plans.
No, that was an that was an application for a permit.
Which
It
was
was
paid-
not an application to modify the plans, correct?
can you pull that back up? Just so I'm not trying to make something up here either.
Look at page 320 of Plaintiff's Exhibit 41.
Does this not say redesign the garage location, and was it not submitted for, approved, and paid for?
It's an application for a building inspection of a redesign of the garage. It's
Yes, it says redesign garage locations.
so it's a request. And I'm simply asking you, are you saying that you don't have to submit new plans for approval, that this will be sufficient to get approval to change the plans from Exhibit 117?
I'm saying, yes, I believe so. As long as you're just
Okay.
moving interior walls, they don't need a full set of plans resubmitted. They don't want to review it all. They just, okay, you want to move a set of walls? No problem. That shouldn't affect the structure. That's fine.
Okay,
It
Thank
doesn't change the footprint.
thank you. Let's go back to Exhibit, yes. General note number 2, all site paving to be done in accordance with the approved paving plan by the city for the project. Where is the approved paving plan?
I believe, so I in our deposition, we went over this. I'm not sure. I produced everything I do have, and I believe the paving plan by the city is the driveway approach and the sidewalk that, your city sidewalks that you see and your city driveway approaches. When you're building a new home, you can't alter that driveway approach or that driveway plan that's already there. So yes, and they're very hung up on that. They don't want, that's a big hang up for the city. They don't want you to do anything that's not approved on their paving plan. I believe that's what number 2 is addressing, and yes, we did.
Do you remember my question?
Yes.
What was my question?
Do you have a city approved paving plan?
I said, where is it?
I was telling you, it's not a plan that we produce. If I'm interpreting number 2 right, it's a plan that the city has, and you just need to stick with it. And it usually, and in this case, it was the case, there is already a driveway approach from a previous property, and they want that to stay the same. If you don't change it, you don't need a plan.
How do we know you've reviewed that plan to
You don't,
adhere
I
to it?
just answered, you don't need to review that plan. The driveway approach was the original driveway approach and the original sidewalk. That's something that the city, like, for example, your neighbor in your neighborhood or any neighborhood, there's driveway approaches that connect to the city roads. That's their paving plan, and they don't want that altered. If you do want to alter, I think you have to go for a variance. So it's not something we had for this project.
Let's go back to Plaintiff's Exhibit 45, page 326. I think I'm on Plaintiff's. I'm sorry, Plaintiff's Exhibit 41, page 326. There you go. Thank you, Rob. Is this the first disbursement request that you sought from the bank?
Yes, I believe so.
And this is acknowledging that the interim loan for the Zitouns was $640,000.
Yes,
Okay, and then excuse me, the contractor is Versailles Dallas Inc. That's your company, is that right?
yes,
So you're representing to the bank that Versailles is the builder on this project, is that right?
yes.
You didn't tell the bank that you were a builder on paper only, did you?
I signed a paper for the bank. So
Did you-
that's what I was referring to when I'm telling you that.
Did you tell the bank that you were only the builder on paper only, that you weren't really the true builder of the project?
I wasn't asked that.
Did you tell them that?
No,
Okay, you fully represented that you were the contractor and builder on this home, is that right?
I was doing the Zitouns a favor to help them get this loan. That's why they submitted to me the original building contract that we were hung up on earlier in the testimonies.
I'm not interested in the why you did it. I'm just simply establishing the fact that you represented to the bank that you were the builder. Versailles was the builder on this project, correct?
Yes, the Zitouns asked me to sign a paper for the bank. They asked me to fund the project for them and help them get it done. And so the draws could come to so we could build the home. for the bank because the bank wouldn't let them build the home themselves. That's exactly what Mr. Zitoun said. I can't build the home myself because I'm not a builder. I need a builder. I need some type of contract. Will you help me out with this process? I said, yes, sure. I'll help you out with that process.
You weren't misrepresenting to the bank that you were the builder when in fact you weren't the builder, were you?
No, I wasn't.
So you were telling the bank that Versailles was the builder because Versailles was the builder, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I was telling the bank that I am signing this contract to build the home for the Zitouns. But the understanding that I had with Mr. Zitoun was him and Aaron were going to be making building decisions. So the bank didn't ask us, are you co-building the house or anything? I did what Mr. Zitoun asked me. Will you please sign this paper for the bank so I can get a loan approved? I need a builder to do it for me.
Well,
He asked me a favor the whole time.
so you didn't even read this? You just signed it because he asked you to?
Yes, I read this.
You've signed documents like this for a lot of projects you've worked on, have you not?
No.
Have you ever worked on a project where you were submitting draw requests to the bank before this one?
No, I don't think so.
So this is the first time that you've ever engaged in a project where you were submitting draw requests to a bank for payments? You being Versailles?
From my knowledge, I believe so. This isn't our typical model. We typically don't borrow money to build homes. Me and my dad just build things for, like I said, as father-son bonding for fun. We don't typically build for clients. So yes, I believe so.
Let's scroll down to the bottom of the page, please, Rob.
But now we are doing an interim draw process with Mr. Izzadine, who you spoke with. We are doing the draw process building his home. I believe that was preceding this one. So I don't want to caught in a technicality there, but
You understand? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Judge, I really think that if the witness would be admonished to just answer the question, we might be able to move more quickly through this.
I mean, this whole process you have where you ask him a question, then he answers, and then you say, is that the question I ask? And then that might work with the jury. To be honest, that's not terribly effective with me. And so if you could just ask the question, if he's non-responsive, you object, and then I'll rule on it.
Okay, that's what I'll do. Thank you, Your Honor. At the bottom of this page, it says description of bill or expense paid, building plans for permit, undisclosed line item, City of Dallas review, water sewer tap fee, builder's risk, general liability, temporary electric pole. Who wrote those words?
I believe I would have, but it's not handwriting, so I'm just going off of what I believe.
Okay, and this is the next page, please. The bottom of the next play. I think we leave out a lot of names and addresses of subcontractors because you only list Versailles as the subcontractor or contractor, right?
Yes.
Okay, and down here it says bills to be paid. The following is a list of bills or expenses relating to the labor or materials used on the project that will be paid from the funds requested. This list, we trying to get back to the, blow that up. This list contains the name and address of each person who subcontracted directly with contractor and whom contractor intends to pay from the requested funds. So this is your representation that these are the bills that relate to this request. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Next page, please. And you don't have any contractors.
We
So
had
there's
we had a lot of people in-house working for us, you know, whether it be by day or by week, or we had a lot of people just that was on our payroll at the time working for us. So Versailles at the time was doing this work that we're speaking of.
I want to ask you about in-house. In-house means these people are on your payroll. Is that right?
No, I mean subs that we had used, but they weren't, on this portion of the project. You saw Russ and Renee. That's what I meant when I say on my payroll. We were paying people checks to do work, but they weren't. So just to clarify for you, with the bank, my understanding was I was just doing the paperwork they asked me to do. If I requested the money, I had paid for that work or more. And I was just filling out the paperwork. Hal Martin or Jordan or later Paramount was asking me to fill out these papers just to get the draws processed.
But you're not misrepresenting anything to them, are you?
No, of course not. Everything was paid for, everything was done, everything, all the work was completed.
But
Yeah.
you don't list any subcontractors on this form, do you?
No,
And you say we did it in-house, and you use those words in-house. What does that mean?
Jordan Zitoun typically, like I think at this first one, Jordan may have filled out this paper and I just signed it to get there just on, because this was the first one. Later, I worked with the bank and figured out their process. You could see in the discoveries and the emails, there was some confusion. How do you guys want me to do this? I'm just trying to get reimbursed for what I've done. But I think Jordan may have filled out this first one, to be honest with you.
My question to you was, what does in-house mean?
I don't want to say in-house again because I was just speaking and maybe that's not the correct word. We would have day laborers, for example, or laborers per week, or just laborers that Versailles was paying for that we'd send to do work and we'd pay them. So maybe they weren't in-house, they weren't on payroll. If that's what you're leading to, that's not what I meant. There was no in-house.
Well, okay, no in-house, right?
No, I'm trying not to get hung up on a technicality that you present in front of me. I'm just trying to be honest and truthful.
But they're not in-house and they're not subcontractors. Is that your testimony?
No, they were subcontractors.
Okay, but you told the bank there were no subcontractors, right?
They weren't you know, when you build a house, when you construct a house, there's lots of day laborers that don't per se have a company that you just list out. You know, there's lots of guys, you go and rent a Bobcat from A1 Rental down the street and pay $1,000 for it out of your pocket. And then you have the guy come do the work. You agree to him, here's $1,500 to do the work. And, you know, for example, like George Ramos, there's not really a contractor I could put on there, and I did not tell the bank all of that either. And I wasn't required to tell the bank all of that. The bank just said, submit the draw request like this, which I believe Mr. Zitoun helped me fill out this paper or may have filled it out himself. He understood that the work was done and I needed to get reimbursed for it. And we submitted the paper.
Objection, non-responsive.
But I didn't tell the bank that.
Your Honor, I object to that. Long answer is non-responsive. I'm not sure if you want to rule or.
Yeah, sustained, just answer the question.
Look at the next page, please, Rob, page 4. And that is your signature as the contractor on behalf of Versailles, right?
Yes,
And then the Zitoun signed it too on their behalf, right?
yes.
Look at the next page, please. Now, this is submitted to the bank as support for the request. I'm sorry, I forgot to point this out on page page 326, Rob, page 326 at the bottom. This is a request for $24,200 to be paid to Versailles, correct?
Yes,
And this is the first draw request to your knowledge, right?
yes.
Okay, go back to page 330, please. 330. And in support of the $24,200, Versailles submits $10,000 cost for building plans, $5,200 for the City of Dallas plan review, and then these other items: builder's risk $3,000, general liability $2,000, et cetera. You see all that?
Yes,
It all adds up to $24,200, right?
yes.
The Baskins are the only ones who drew up the building plans on this project, correct?
No.
Who else drew up?
Were involved in the planning process.
Who drew up building plans for this project other than the Baskins?
So as you can see, the Baskins are just drafters. We have engineers that had to stamp plans. We had other people that were working for my uncle on another project, I believe at the time, that assisted in drawing plans. Like I said, this was done as budgeted, as cheap as we could do it for the Zitouns, that we were just using resources everywhere we could. So there was multiple checks that were written, and we tried our best to produce those for you. And I don't know which ones you did get or we could find. And we didn't always just write Maple Springs. That's where that complexity comes from. But to be honest, Jordan filled out all this paperwork with me. He understood we were owed more than this a lot of the times. And then we had conversations with the bank, and the bank said, hey, as long as the total stays the same, you can draw on these items that were in the budget, move things around how you want to get yourself paid back. So it's not going to be like black and white. Does that make sense to you?
Objection non-responsive, Your Honor.
Overall, I think that was responsive.
Okay, where are the engineer plans that you say you paid for? We didn't get them in production.
Well, you have to have a full set of mechanical engineering, plumbing engineering, electrical engineering, if you want to submit and get approvals from the city of Dallas. And
Where are all those plans? Where are any of those
we were
plans?
kept on site the entire time that we were constructing the house near the study per city ordinance. If the inspector came out to check your building, or he needed to see that all, and he needed to see, he needed something to look at to see what he's inspecting on. I don't know where they are now. We tried to submit everything we could find to you. And I know you guys went to the city of Dallas. They should have things in their files as well.
Did you recall the Baskins testifying that the amount they were paid on this project from Versailles was $4,593.30?
Yes.
Do you have a single invoice or plan from any other person or entity with regard to this project other than the Baskins?
I produced everything I do have. We did incur other costs. Other than that, there's no way you can just do a full set of 4,000 square foot plans engineered and all that for $4,000 with just the Baskins. It's not possible. The city of Dallas has a lot more requirements than that to get a plan.
I don't know if it's possible or not, but my question is, do you know of any of the other plans that you have in your file other than the Baskins?
I produced everything I have, sir. I
Okay.
don't know off the top of my head. Do I have anything? No.
Okay. You were paid this $24,200 from the bank, correct?
Yes, and just to point out, this comes out to like $2 a square foot at $10,000. It's typically $5 to $10 a square foot to do a set of plans. So as you can see, this was all generously done. We did incur a lot of expenses in producing.
So here you also on this exhibit, it says you pay $5,200 for the city of Dallas plan review. Do you see that?
Yes.
Rob, can you put up plaintiff's exhibit 95 at page 1476?
And just before we go there, if you don't mind me adding to the city of Dallas plan review, that doesn't mean literally just the city of Dallas plan review. There was multiple sets we took into the city that got rejected. I have the runners to pay for, like Mike, and I was going based on the budget I submitted to the bank per the bank's request. You can draw on these line items that you put in the budget, and that's it. So when I needed to get reimbursed for payments, as you know, the construction process isn't just a black and white cut and dry process, especially with a complicated project like this. There's other fees and stuff that incur. The bank didn't want to keep changing around budgets and stuff, and they were definitive on Jordan would not get approved for any more funding. So they wanted that number at the bottom to remain 507, but we could move things around in the budget.
Objection non-responsive.
Yeah, that really was non-responsive. Just your attorney's going to have an opportunity to ask you questions. Just give it a little, just answer the questions that are asked.
This exhibit, plaintiff's exhibit 95 at page 1476 is from the city that shows all the monies paid to the city on this project. Do you see that?
Yes.
And I've added all these numbers, and I come up with $1,926.75. Do you dispute that number?
No.
That 1970, and one of these is bill. The one in the middle says bill plan review fee $150, and then the addendum plan review fee at the bottom is $25. So the total on plan review fee is $175 paid to the city. You see that?
Yes, but an earlier document I saw was $300. So I know this isn't the only document of fees. I know, and there was multiple sets submitted to the city as well that were rejected.
Well, this is what the city produced as the,
That
I'm
was what
sorry.
was permitted.
I'm sorry, I didn't know you were still going. I didn't hear the rest of your answer. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
I said, this is the only one that you pulled up on the screen, but this wasn't necessarily the only fees we incurred.
Well, this is what the city represented, the section that says fees, that were fees paid.
On this job number, what I'm trying to tell you is we had, like Russ and Renee said, 3 or 4 sets of plans that we ran up. I paid Mikey plenty of money every time he went up there and spent hours and hours and hours to submit plans to the city. And I'm just was trying to explain previously before we got here that when the bank asked me to submit a draw, they wanted a literal draw off the line from the budget. And you know, those budgets, when we create them, is based on an estimate of what we think things will cost. So when I was submitting that, it was just to get reimbursed for what I had spent.
But do you have any evidence that says that you paid the city any money other than what's reflected on this exhibit with regard to this project?
I may have produced some checks and other things in the discovery.
So if we subtract the amount that you paid the city, which is $1926.75 from the $5,200 that you billed, well, strike that, Your Honor. Let's go to page 30, exhibit 41 at page, I think it's, let me find that. I may have the wrong page on my exhibit 41. It might be actually on page 33 of exhibit 41. I'm going to skip all this. Let's go to page 334 on exhibit 41, please. 334 on exhibit 41. Now, this exhibit is your second draw request. At the very top, I think we've got the, 929.16 is the second draw request. If you'll scroll down to the bottom, please. And it's for $23,994. Do you see that?
Yes.
And you list the name of the subcontractor or supplier as Versailles Dallas LLC. Did you write that in there?
You know what? Actually, that looks like Mr. Zitoun's handwriting at the bottom, 23,994. As I told you, Mr. Zitoun was helping me at the beginning because I wasn't a typical build project for me. That was definitely not my handwriting at the bottom. And I usually handwrite, as you'll see in later exhibits, I usually handwrite the things that I'm writing. But I think Mr. Zitoun helped me produce this. We're still in the beginning.
My question was, did you write Versailles Dallas LLC on the name and address of the contractor?
See, I would have put Versailles Dallas Inc. That's also why I'm just trying to be honest in this answer. I wouldn't have put LLC, but Mr. Zitoun refers to me as LLC a lot of times.
If you'll look at the next page, please, Rob. If there's no subcontractors listed as having done any work, correct?
Yes, sir. As I stated, I may have been a little sloppy when I was submitting these draws, but there was no bad intention. This was work that was paid for. The Zitouns were aware of it at all times. The bank was there inspecting work that was done. There was no smoke and mirrors put up. Everything that was done and more was done before we requested money, and they would come and inspect it. The Zitouns would approve it. So yes, I didn't fill this out with as much. I should have been more thorough and listed things, but frankly, the bank was not requesting it. And I was just doing what I was asked the whole time. And I was just trying to get paid for something, reimbursed for something that I wasn't making money on. So my focus was on other things. With all due respect, I wasn't trying to do anything wrong in this situation.
I just simply asked you, did you list any subcontractors on this form?
Yes, but we keep coming back to the subcontractor, so I feel I need to give you one final answer for why you're not going to see subcontractors on here. You said I didn't do it intentionally. Are you saying that you've misrepresented to the bank
that there were subcontractors in this, that you used, but you just didn't do it intentionally?
No, I'm not saying, I'm saying the bank was aware of the process at all times. I was doing what the bank asked me to do.
Didn't you represent to the bank on multiple occasions that these people that were doing the labor were in-house?
Sometimes they were in-house, but that language wasn't just meaning they were on my payroll. It was meaning that we were just paying for them. They were like laborers that we would have working on other projects. They'd finish half the day, we'd send them over there, do this work.
So you had day laborers working on the Zitoun house?
Yes, at times we did.
Who supervised them?
Jordan and Aaron Zitoun did a lot of times. When I was needed, I would go check on them.
You sent day laborers to the Zitoun's house to be told what to do and how to do it by the Zitouns? Is that your testimony?
No, we did have, obviously we had a framing subcontractor. I'm just saying I was filling out this document, how I was being asked to fill out this document by the bank and by Mr. Zitoun and Aaron. And like I said, this document was filled out by Aaron and Jordan. I was simply trying to get reimbursed for expenses my company had incurred. So I wasn't misrepresenting anything.
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm finished.
My question was about the day laborers.
The
You
day
said
laborers
you-
were
Wait a
mainly-
minute, let me ask the question. You said that you got day laborers from other jobs and sent them to the Zitoun's house, right?
Yes, mainly for things like cleanup or site prep, go move the Bobcat, move dirt. We've added like, hundreds of loads of fill dirt for them to get that lot up to par, to be able to build it. Things like that. Yes, we did send a lot of, and we're talking about these very beginning stages. It could have been just day laborers or weekly guys we hired weekly to go over and operate a Bobcat and move some dirt around. Or when it came to framing and stuff of the home and plumbing, we used subcontract.
You use subcontractor. You understand when you submit this pay application, draw request to the bank, you're submitting it to a federally insured bank. You understand that, right?
Yes,
And you're asking them to pay you money based on what you say in this document.
yes,
And so you say you were a little sloppy and you didn't know what you were doing. You were just following the Zitouns, but your name appears in here as the one asking for the money, right?
yes.
Okay, if you go down to paragraph B at the bottom and then it continues on at the top, it's the same paragraph that we've seen before. It says that you will, the following is a list of bills or expenses relating to the labor and materials used on the project that will be paid from these funds requested. And then it contains the names and addresses of each person who subcontracted directly with contractor and whom the contractor intends to pay from the funds. Same language, you put nobody. Is that right?
We had already paid for everything anytime we were requesting money, requesting reimbursement always. We had already paid out of our bank account or our pocket for anything that we requested funding back, reimbursement back for.
But,
So
but
is
I'm,
it that I need,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
just reading this line so I can answer you truthfully. This list contains. Yeah, I didn't need to pay anyone from the requested funds. I had already paid them. So I was just speaking to pay back Versailles Dallas for the work it had done and the money that I'd spent.
Okay, if we could go to the signature page, please.
The whole time, like I said, I was just working closely with the Zitouns. How do I get paid back? I paid for all the stuff on your house. How do I get paid back here? Let's fill out these documents.
This is your signature on the bottom of that draw request number 2, correct?
Yes,
And let's look at the next page, please, Rob. Blow that up. In this, you have now increased the building plans amount to $11,067. Do you see that?
yes,
And then if you'll look down below the line below draw request received 19,000, it says 3 additional sets of plans, another $14,250. You see that?
yes,
So if we add those two numbers up, we come up with $25,317 for quote plans, building plans, right?
Yes.
Other than the Baskins, do you have any evidence that you paid anyone else for building plans on this project?
I'm not sure if it's in my discovery, what we produced with the checks and everything, but we did definitely spend more money. You cannot produce a set of plans. A set of plans is typically $10 per square foot, and we're talking about a 4,800 square foot home. That comes out to $48,000 for one. And you do know that we did produce 3 or 4 sets of plans. So yes, I didn't keep detailed records of everything. I tried my best to find everything. That's all I have.
Okay, and then
Because were aware of this the whole time. They were with us every step of the way in planning and designing and redrawing, and they knew that there was lots of costs incurred.
if we'll look at the draw received 19,000, you see that? It's right there.
Yes,
We just looked at draw request number 1. You actually received 24,200 on that draw request, correct?
yes.
In fact, if you'll show me page 332, Rob, please. 332. That shows the amount they paid you on draw request number 1 for $24,200, right?
Yes.
Back to 339, please. Page 339. So here you've shorted the amount that they paid you by $4,994, if my math is right. So this figure that you say we're owed is $4,999 too high because you didn't subtract out the whole 24.2, right?
I could
Let me make
definitely,
sure my
I
math's
definitely can't answer that truthfully. I'm not sure the timeline of everything, and there was so much going on. I do know that the Zitoun saw this when I did, and they signed it before I did. Usually that was the case. Like I said, a house of 4,800 square feet at 507,000 is impossible, even just with labors and materials, and that going rate at that time, especially today.
Go back up to the top of the exhibit.
Incurred way more cost than this, and the whole time there was open dialogue with the Zitouns and the bank that I've incurred way more cost of this. Okay, well, the budget's 507, draw what you can, we keep the bottom number the same. I was just trying to go off of a budget at all times and just trying to get my company reimbursed.
Objection non-responsive. Yeah, I don't want to make you have to.
Sustained.
Thank you, Your Honor. This document was prepared by Versailles Inc., it says at the top. Is that a different entity than Versailles Dallas Inc.?
No.
So Versailles Inc. is the same as Versailles Dallas Inc.?
Yeah.
Why do you use Versailles Inc. and not Versailles Dallas Inc. on this submission to the bank?
That was just a logo my father created, maybe in 2013. And it was just, we went to needle in a haystack here on Lover's Lane together and said, hey, here's our company, Versailles Dallas Inc. Will you make us a letterhead? Okay, here's Versailles Inc. It's just, I don't see why. Yes, sir.
Okay, so if you didn't spend $25,317 on building plans and you only spent $4,593.30, the difference would be approximately 20. Well, strike that, Your Honor. I apologize. If you gave them credit for 19,000 instead of the 24.2, I think my math was wrong. The difference is $5,200 you didn't apply. So the amount owed should be $23,994 minus 5,200, and that would be $18,794. If my math is right, do you believe that to be correct?
I believe I was going off the Zitoun's formula here. We were working on this draw request together. I'm not sure how that discrepancy or why, or I'm sure there was a legitimate reason. I just don't remember it.
But if the bank paid you $23,994 994, they paid you $5,200 too much, correct?
No, that's not correct. The bank didn't pay me for all I was owed in this entire process.
Did the bank pay you $23,994 on this draw request?
They paid me for what Zitoun was approved for. I always had overages.
Did the bank pay you $23,994 for this draw request?
I'd have to see the draw request paid, but yes, I believe so, if they did pay this one.
Look at the next page, please, Rob, 340. Here's the bank, a loan advance authorization from dated 10/7/16 in the amount of $23,994. It was scroll down a little bit, please. And it shows it's signed by Martin Rule, I believe is his last name. Ruehl. And if you go to the next page, please. There's a credit memo for $23,994. And if you'll scroll down, it'll show who it's going to go to. I believe it goes to, let's go to the next page, please. This is the actual wire transfer. And it shows $23,994. Go down a little bit, please, Rob. The beneficiary is Versailles Dallas. Does that confirm
Yeah,
everything we just talked about? Does that confirm that you were paid $23,994 based on that information you submitted to the bank?
Yes.
Let's go to Plaintiff's Exhibit 77 at page 1154, please. Plaintiff's Exhibit 77 at page 1154. Now, I apologize for bouncing between exhibits, but this is how this stuff got produced to us. This is another draw request. I believe it to be the third draw request. Scroll down, please. I was looking for a date. Let me see. This is page 77, 1154. By the way, in the middle of that page that's on the screen now says, see the attached Exhibit A, which means you submit the support for this request. Is that right?
Yes.
And on this request, it's for a total of $24,500, right?
Yes.
And it's for the things listed on 1154, correct?
Yes.
And if you'll scroll down to the next page, please.
That adds up to 38,000.
3, 8.
So I'm not sure why I was requesting 24,000 when I was owed 38,000, but yes, that looks correct.
Well, are you saying that the 38,000 is what you were owed, or the 24,000 is what you were owed?
It looks like the 38,000. It looks like I got paid 24,000. I'm not sure. Mr. Zitoun, again, this isn't my hand. It doesn't look like my handwriting. The 5/15/17 could be, but Mr. Zitoun was helping me fill out these papers all along. I mean, we were just trying to get reimbursed for what we had spent. We'd sit and have conversations, coffees with him. I saw him weekly, coffees, lunch, something, and we were working on this together just to get me reimbursed.
How would Mr. Zitoun know how much you spent on windows and doors?
Because he was part of the process the whole time. I would show, at that time, I had everything at the time. I would show him invoices. I would show him stuff. Maybe I even gave it to him and he didn't produce it to you. I don't remember.
So he would know only because you would tell him, correct?
He knew because he saw me tell him. He saw invoices, he saw me cut checks, he saw me spend the money, he saw the work done. It wasn't just because I told him. He was heavily involved with the
We
process.
don't doubt that you spent money on this project. The home got built in the state it's in. Nobody questions that. I'm trying to find out if you.
The home got built. The home did not get built.
I haven't finished the question
It
yet.
was perfect when it was built. They neglected to solve issues that could have been solved very easily, sir.
Objection,
that's
not
not fair to
responsive.
say.
I don't mean to argue with you. I just want to
Listen,
ask
sure.
questions.
This needs to be in a question and answer format, so let's do
Yes,
that.
Your Honor.
Based on this draw request, you were paid 24,500 based on the request that you signed, right?
Yes.
Okay, and the next page, please, is the actual wire transfer of that amount. Whoop. 1167, I'm sorry, 1167. This page shows the 24,500 was wired to Versailles Dallas account. Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. If you look at we got to go back. I got to go back and forth because I want to keep these in order. Plaintiff's Exhibit 41, page 345. Plaintiff's Exhibit 41, page 345. This is the draw request number 4. 41, page 345. And this is dated, the next page shows the date is May 26th, 2017, right?
Yes.
And so who wrote these numbers into this draw request?
That looks like my handwriting.
Okay. And it's for the foundation and garage floor, $76,000.
Yes.
And who put that garage floor and foundation in? What contractor?
I
Subcontractor?
can't remember off the top of my head. Zitoun and I did everything together. He might remember the contractor.
If we've only been, well, strike that.
It was different suppliers. It wasn't just in the foundation. You have laborers that put the form boards up. You have laborers that pour are involved in the concrete process. You have a supplier that brings the concrete. I believe that's how we were doing this job. We were doing labors and material interchange, and we were trying to get it done for their budget. And you can't typically just go to a subcontractor and say, "Hey, do it turnkey for me." If you did that, it might be $120,000. But we were piecing it together a lot.
Objection, non-responsive. I'm not sure.
Sustained.
All right. But just to make clear, you hired the electrical contractor. You hired one of your subs to do the electrical work on this home, correct?
Yes.
And you hired one of your subs to do the foundation and garage floor, correct?
Yes.
And you hired every one of these items you hired to do the work on this home, correct?
Well, Zitoun and I hired. Zitoun would say, "Hey, we got to do this. We're on." I would guide him a little bit. We're on this stage. Is what we got to do. He'd say, "Let's get this guy." He had that guy working on that project. We'll use this guy. So yes, collaboratively, we hired these people. Yes.
And these people were under your direct supervision, and you had subcontracted with previously on other jobs, correct?
In some of the circumstances, yes. Some I may have used new contractors that we found,
But all these contractors and day workers were obtained and engaged by Versailles, right?
Well, I was paying them, hoping for reimbursement at a later date. I'm not 100% sure if I hired every single one of them individually. Some of them might have just been recommended, but I did pay them.
Okay, let's look at the next page, please, Rob. Page 346, Rob, please. This page, did you do the handwriting on this page?
Yes.
Okay, and down here it says all bills paid right above the language that says contractor represents that the above referenced bills and expenses, and you checked have been previously paid, all bills paid, check, right?
Yes, sir.
And this draw was for $267,700, correct?
Yes.
And this draw followed that email from Jordan Zitoun that said you're already out $200,000. Would you agree?
What was that timing? What are you asking me? Can you repeat?
Well, when Ms. Pettit Greason was talking about with Mr. Zitoun that Mr. Zitoun sent an email to the banker saying they need to be paid. They're already out $200,000. It was right before this draw was paid, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. And you signed this request and you got paid $267,000. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Let's look at plaintiff's exhibit 77, page 1179, please. This is 77, 1179. Do I have it right? This is a Prosperity Bank advance authorization in July of 2017, authorizing the payment of $39,500 for this draw request. I may have the wrong. Let me see if it's. Look at the next page, please. 1183. I'm sorry, 1183. This is the actual draw request. If you could blow it up a little bit, seeking payment for gutters, front door electrical feed installation, and sheetrock. $39,500, right?
Yes.
And if you'll go back to page 1179. In the middle of that page, it says this is a document filled out by the bank. It says construction percentage complete 67%. Did you ever make representations to the bank about the percentage of completion of the house?
I don't believe so.
Who would have been in a position to tell the bank how far along this construction completion was on this house?
Probably Martin, I would assume. I'm not sure. Or the inspector maybe, or I never work on percentages. To be honest, I'm not the best with math and numbers.
Okay, if you go to page 1184, Rob, please. It's the end of this draw request on 7/17/17. Is that your signature? It looks so different than the other ones we've seen.
It appears to be, but someone could have done that. But yes, it appears to be my signature. I said I typically don't fill in dates digitally, and it could be.
I'm sorry. The next page, please. 1196, please. And this is the wire where you received $39,500 to Versailles. Go to the top, please. There's the 39.5, and it goes to Versailles to payment of that draw request number 5. Is that right?
Yes.
Draw request number 6, plaintiff's exhibit 41 at 350. This is draw request number 6 for $46,000. Is that your handwriting on this draw request?
Yes.
And the items listed establish what you're paying for, including $2,000 for grading the lot.
Yes.
And the next page, please, will show that this was in November of 17. And you signed that, right?
Yes.
And if you'll look at the next page, page 352, blow this up a little bit. This is part of that request on November 15th, 17, submitted by the contractor Versailles. Let's look at the bills paid. The following is a list of bills or expenses for labor or materials used on the project that have been paid and for which contractors are requesting payment. And you say here, all bills and subs have been paid, no liens filed. And that was in November of 17, right?
Yes.
And you signed that document on the next page, correct?
Yes.
Turn that page, please, Rob, and then the next page, please. 354 shows that you were actually funded the 46,000 on this draw request.
Okay.
If you'll look at plaintiff's exhibit 77 at page 1240, please, Rob. This is draw request number 7. And it asks for cabinetry, painting, baseboard, trim materials, interior doors, trim labor. Who wrote that?
I did.
And the next page, you signed it, seeking payment of 2106,
Yes.
41,106. Is that right?
Yes.
And you were paid that?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to plaintiff's exhibit 41 at page 373. This is the final draw request number 8, dated May 16, 2018. Whose writing is this?
Looks like mine.
Okay, let's zoom in on it. It says name of supplier, name and address of subcontractors. All materials and contractors were provided in-house by Versailles. All materials were paid COD. Now there you use the words in-house
Yes.
again. What does that mean? What did you intend that to mean to the bank? I should ask.
Well, could you go back to the items that I listed? I could probably answer it for you.
I think they're on the next page, Rob. On the next 2 pages, the second page. These are the items.
Yes, electrical fixtures. Versailles bought recessed can lighting for the house. We provided that. Plumbing fixtures, toilet stuff. We did buy that at Home Depot. We provided that, or Lowe's, or wherever we bought at the time. HVAC, I'm not sure what specific work it was paying, but so to answer you, what I'm meaning when we said in-house, for example, my father would be building another house at the time, and we'd have a tile crew. And I think you just write the name directly to the guy's name. It's not like a big company you contracted with and write him a check. And my dad would send him over from the house he's doing, and he'd do the flooring. So when I said in-house, I meant we wrote, we paid these laborers a check. I wasn't aware I should be listing individual laborers on each, Does that make sense?
Not really, but that's okay. You've answered the question.
What part doesn't? It's
On this exhibit, it says
Oh.
driveway.
just so we don't go back to the in-house. I just want to clarify it for you.
This says driveway walkway, $8,000 has already been paid. Who did you pay to put in the driveway?
I think you have to ask my father that question. I wasn't really involved much at this time. We were doing things like that. I know that I know that the Zitouns modified what driveway you see now is what the Zitouns did and designed. That's all I know. I wasn't part of that work. You'd have to ask my father.
But you signed this document and submitted it to the bank to get the last $40,000 of the loan, correct?
Yes, sir. And so I could answer that as I've already answered this. We had a budget with the bank and we were owed outstanding amounts at all times. The bank understood we were owed outstanding amounts. We had lunch with them. Jordan was aware. So they would say, hey, as long as you don't change the bottom and it lines up with the budget you produced at the very beginning, before you knew all these other things were going to come up, with the Zitouns were going to have more expensive taste and spend more money than we set in this budget, they would allow me to go and draw on items, even if, they would allow me to use whatever line items I had to draw on to get reimbursed. We were on a very open communication, we were in very open communication with the bank and with the Zitouns on every draw request we made. The Zitouns knew we were making this draw request to get reimbursed, and they knew it wouldn't even be all the reimbursement we needed. They knew they needed to pay us extra.
Objection, non-responsive.
Just what was left in the budget, if that would be a better answer for you.
Overruled.
Okay, you saw your lawyer put up that that there was a fork in the road at this last 40,000, and that you wanted this last 40,000 to be spent on the driveway and the drainage. You remember that slide?
Yes. I'm not sure that it was all, look, I'm not sure, going back, thinking back in memory, if this was about this 40,000 specifically. We keep going back to this 40,000. I was always owed 100,000 was a floating balance that I often kept on this project. So anytime I was getting a draw, it was reimbursement to go towards that balance that was owed. The dispute we had, to now answer your question, was over how you should spend money to finish this house. And the Zitouns, we knew, had some money. As you see, they wrote a check to George Ramos for a fence that was not in the budget for 15,000. We had, and it wasn't the dispute. The dispute was only after we sued the Zitouns and they blocked our number. That was the main dispute. This was more of a friendly disagreement. Hey, I think you need to spend the money on doing French drains, properly drain out the water. We think you need to do that circular driveway plan, or at least do another plan that makes sense. It can't just be the straight on that you guys want. It all came down to the walkway, landscaping, and the last bit of construction. So I don't know about the 40,000 specifically based on memory, or it.
Are you saying it was? Are you saying it was a friendly dispute until after you filed the lawsuit and they blocked your number?
Yes.
Would you please put up Plaintiff's Exhibit 96, please, Rob? Here on August 1st of 2018, well before you filed this suit, you tell Jordan that he's committed a felony, do you not?
Yes, at that time, but I was still friends with Jordan. We weren't, he wasn't my number one enemy. I still wanted to remedy the relationship, be friends, go forward in life. And I don't have any enemies. I don't hold any grudges. Still to this day, I don't hold grudges against Jordan. My father was going through a lot of distress. My father just had emergency surgery over this situation to see a friend that he mentored and helped is doing this to us. That was just an email simply saying, hey, you bounced a check on my dad. My dad was on vacation and he tried to swipe his credit card thinking he had the money in there because he moved money around, with your check in mind. And now he just bounced on dinner. So there was emotions at that time. My dad to call me from Cabo.
Okay, you're going way, way beyond the scope of the question. So I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, let's get started again. Are you guys ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay,
Judge, I'm talking and I'm muted the whole time. I'm sorry about that.
that's all right.
I'm still at plaintiff's exhibit. I'd like to go to plaintiff's exhibit 41 at page 375. The up here it says electrical fixtures and plumbing fixtures, 5,000 each. Isn't it a fact that Jordan and Aaron Zitoun bought their own electrical and plumbing fixtures with their own money?
No, not all of them. They bought some, some chandeliers that they really liked that weren't in their budget. But we spent money on plumbing fixtures and electrical fixtures as well.
Do you have any receipts showing that you spent $10,000 on electrical and plumbing fixtures?
So for the electrical fixtures, for example, we would buy thousands of can lights at time, recessed can lighting, which is very expensive, $5 to $10 per light. We would buy all of that stuff and have it in our warehouse. We'd usually buy it in bulk. So that's why it was hard to produce this. We were doing a lot of favors because we build homes as investments for ourselves. So we did spend that money, or we did donate that product or give it to the Zitouns, and we just needed reimbursement. And it usually came from our warehouse. That's where a lot of this materials would have come from.
So you don't have any receipts? Is that your answer?
Not just for the 5,000 specifically, no. And I probably spent more than 5,000, but that's all I was allowed on the budget.
Would you Rob, please bring up Plaintiff's Exhibit 45 at page, I think it's the second page, maybe the third page. Plaintiff's Exhibit 45 at page 3. Here's a check from Nair Asset Management LLC. You understand that to be Mr. Zitoun's company, right?
Yes.
And it's paying you $4,900 for countertops, paying you directly. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, is that right? I'm sorry, I didn't hear your answer. I did not hear your answer if you gave one.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Back to Exhibit 41, page 375. On this exhibit, you bill for counters $5,000 to the bank in the last draw. Is that right?
Yes. The 4,900 was an overage because they wanted a nicer material. They wanted whatever they used, marble or quartz, that wouldn't fit in the budget. I actually let them go directly to my supplier and fabricator, pick their material. They knew it was over the budget. I paid for a portion of it, the 5,000, and they paid for the remaining balance. And that's usually how a lot of these line items were done. Everything was done with the Zitouns. They knew about everything. Or if I got, say I took 5,000 for a line item, it's because I was owed the money, and the Zitouns knew I was owed the money, and the bank knew I was owed the money, and they were instructing me to just draw on the budget so we get you paid back.
Who's your countertop provider that you sent them to, that you paid $5,000 to and they paid $4,900 to?
I don't remember the one at that time. I just remember I specifically let them just go. It was something I would never do if they weren't building the home basically themselves. I said, go to the supply house and the fabricator, meet with him, pick what you want to do, and we'll apply what we have in the budget, and then you pay the difference.
Sure. Rob, would you put up Defendant's Exhibit 92? I think it's Defendant's Exhibit 92. This is pages of checks provided to us by the defense after the judge ruled that they were ordered to do so in May and the courts of appeals denied their writs of mandamus. These are the entire receipts and checks and evidence of payments made by the Versailles that have been given to us. And if you don't mind, Rob, just scroll down so the court can see it's a check made out to somebody, and in some of them there's memos that say framing. This one, stop here, says Maple Springs. Go to the next one. Maple Springs, I would have to zoom in, but it's framing. Maple Springs, it looks like framing. I didn't find, to my knowledge, a check to any countertop company for $5,000. Do you have other evidence that would suggest that you actually paid $5,000 and the Zitouns didn't pay for it by their check to you?
Not that I could find specifically attributing to Maple Springs. And the reason that I could not do that is because we had, for the countertops at that point, we were doing a few other homes, and we would have running balances with the supplier in the fabricator and installer. And we would go and write checks to go towards that balance all the time. So if maybe we had a $15,000, I couldn't attribute that $15,000 check to Maple Springs because it was for other jobs. We were just paying. Do you understand that? Does that make sense to you?
Not really, but
Well, it should, because when you're building multiple houses and you're using the same fabricator and installer, they don't necessarily, if you don't request it, send you one bill. They send you and say, hey, you owe me $10,000, especially if you're close to them or you're just doing work on a verbal. Not everything is just black and white, especially in the construction industry. It's not just here's this, here's that. Maybe for D.R. Horton, but we're definitely not D.R. Horton. We operate as a father and son, family-run business. I understand it's a little sloppy. We don't mean it to be. And I'm trying to be very respectful to you, Mr. Ackles. I just get a little frustrated sometimes because you're insinuating I did things that I didn't do. Insinuating in bank fraud. I'm trying to defend myself. The Zitouns were a part of every single decision we made. They were part of every single draw request. So was the bank. I was in conversation with all of them.
Well, objection non-responsive. I don't know what else.
Sustained.
What I'm trying to say is whether or not you have deals with suppliers and have multiple things in your inventory, the question is there a $5,000 check written to a countertop contractor? Then we know who it was. I don't find one. Do you know of one?
No, because there's probably checks that I had that were written for $20,000 that a part of this bill was applied to. And I can't just produce something that I'm not certain that it's Maple Springs. It's not Maple Springs only. It doesn't say it on the memo because I didn't write it at the time. So this is what I could find through all the checks. And there's lots of checks. This is what I could find that says Maple Springs. And that's the only thing I could, honestly say, here's what I have. But do you, if you look at the countertops in that house, you really think $5,000? That's just like the fabrication cost to cut the marble and install it. It's a lot more expensive for material and craftsmen to do this stuff.
I would ask that demonstrative exhibit entitled Zitoun spreadsheet for side checks. Can you put that up, Rob? And this is for the Judge, these checks are just a series of checks in Defense Exhibit 92. What we have done is put them in chronological order. And then at the bottom, if you'll go to the next page, Rob, please, we have totaled them on an Excel spreadsheet, and the checks total $178,747.80. And in
Any objection?
Well, I mean, if it's being offered as a demonstrative, or is this being offered as a summary of evidence? I'm not entirely sure.
a little bit of both, Your Honor, but mostly demonstrative to make heads or tails out of these issues, but both demonstrative and summary of evidence.
Well, if it's being offered as a formal exhibit, I would just simply ask for a little bit of time to verify these numbers. Assuming that the numbers are correct, we would not have an objection. I'm just not sure. I haven't done the exercise to verify it.
Defendant's Exhibit 92 is admitted.
Judge, we might call this 92A because Exhibit 92 are the checks themselves.
Defendant's Exhibit 92A is admitted.
Okay, and in this document, it's got the check number, the date it was written, who it was paid to, the amount of payment, and the generally what is contained, as best we can read it, in the memo column. A lot of these checks don't have anything in the memo column. How would you know they're Maple Springs related?
Most of them did have Maple Springs, and if they didn't, it was by our memory. We were going, my father and I went through every single check that we had. And I try to answer as respectfully as possible. I'm scared I answer and I answer too much and you don't like it. So my father and I went by memory and the time.
All right, that's the answer. Let's go to the next question.
Okay, let's go back to, let's see, we've covered countertops.
There were credit cards, debit cards.
Let's go back to exhibit 41, page 375, please. That exhibit, I'm sorry, also shows $4,000 for glass showers. Isn't it a fact that the Zitouns paid for their glass showers themselves?
I believe they may have paid for partial, and $4,000. If you see the glass showers that they have in there, that wouldn't have covered that. That wouldn't have covered that. That's some. You have pictures. That's expensive glass work. So I believe we paid for part of it, and they understood they needed to pay for the overages.
If you'll, Rob, if you'll go back to exhibit, defense exhibit
Back to
92.
the same thing. This was a conversation with the Zitouns. They owed us money. The bank, the Zitouns just wanted to move in their house and not get foreclosed on and get everything done, but they owed us money. So it's just draw what you can from the budget to get paid back.
If you would go to defense exhibit 92A, please, and go to check number 6552. Let me see if I can find that. 92A 65. It was done on March of 2018, so it's going to be George Ramos. Where is it? There it is, the three from the bottom, right there, 3818. George Ramos. And that check, to George Ramos is for $2,800 for Maple Springs. Now, he's the fella who installed the driveway, right?
He worked with the Zitouns to install a driveway, but I believe this check was for other work he was doing.
Well, but you reflected it, and we can go back to it. When you asked the bank to pay you $8,000 for the driveway, you stated that work had been previously paid. Did you not?
Yes, but what I'm saying to you is I think this check was not for the driveway. I'm not sure by memory, but I don't think this, I think George is doing their stonework or stucco or something on the property.
That's the only check we found to George Ramos that you produced. Are you saying you didn't pay George Ramos any money for the driveway?
I told you the driveway was mainly my dad and the Zitouns, and Ramos, I was never involved with him, so I can't answer that question.
Okay, you don't know whether y'all paid George Ramos $8,000 to put in the driveway. Is that your testimony?
I'm not sure.
But you represented to the bank that you did.
I don't think I told the bank I paid George Ramos $8,000.
That's correct. That's true. That was a bad question. You represented to the bank that you had already paid. If you don't mind, pull up Plaintiff's Exhibit 41 at page 375 one more
With all
time.
due respect, I've told you many times that final payment that you keep referring to is because we were owed debt and we had a budget that we needed to draw on for the bank's record keeper. Whatever reason, they just said, draw on these line items, understand you're owed money. As long as it equals the 507 at the bottom, draw to get yourself reimbursed.
Are you
Why would Mr. Zitoun sign this if he knew all along what was going on? Why would he sign this? I only got this money after the bank and Zitoun approved everything.
Are you saying that a banker at Prosperity Bank told you it doesn't matter what numbers you put in here, whether or not you've paid these amounts, we just want you to stay within budget?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying what, I'm saying in conversation with the banks, I believe it's even an email and it's in one of these exhibits, that the bank told us you can move items around and it doesn't, just draw on what you're owed. We'll approve it if we can. We know you're owed money. Just keep the final number 507.
But did the bank tell you you could say you spent $8,000 on a driveway even though you didn't spend that money?
No,
So this has to be an accurate statement, does it not?
what is the accurate statement?
That you spent $8,000 putting in the driveway.
You have to ask the driveway questions to my dad. That's why I'm having trouble answering them to you. Because
All right, well, let's go down to the bottom of this page, please.
at this point, Jordan and I were disagreeing on how the money, I was just kind of, working on other projects. I had other things I was focusing on. My dad handled the last bit of it with him.
You represent here at the bottom of the page that these amounts have been previously paid. You checked that. You put that check mark, right?
Yes, and we did spend money after Jordan said pay the guy, could you pay the guy for me and get the money back on the draw? We did spend that money always if we said we spent the money. We spent that money and more, as I keep telling you.
Next page, please.
I mean, it's common sense. I know I can't speak. I'll wait for my testimony.
You did sign this document on May 14th, 2018, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let me turn to plaintiff's exhibit 6, please.
Just since we're talking about the driveway, and I wasn't involved, you're gonna have to ask the specifics from my dad, but the driveway's material also, like a concrete truck bringing materials and labor. That doesn't mean just because if we spent the money on the driveway, we probably paid a concrete bill. That sounds more like just the material, not the labor. That's a pretty cheap driveway.
Plaintiff's exhibit 6 at page 65 at the number on the bottom, please.
You have rebar, metal, gravel. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that process. If we paid the bills, doesn't mean we did it.
By the way, just to be clear, you're saying you had nothing to do with the installation of the driveway at the Maple Springs home, correct?
I had nothing to do with the installation of the driveway. You're gonna have to refer these questions to my father.
Did your father have anything to do with the installation of the driveway at Maple Springs?
I'm not sure. At that point, I was working on Tulip, which is something that's brought up in this case. I was working on Tulip. I had an investor over there, and I was really trying to get the project completed. It was crunch time. I was not involved so much at this point. You're gonna have to ask my dad on these final driveway questions.
Okay, let's look at page.
No, we paid labor and
65.
material though, because I do remember that.
Page 65, please, Rob. Rob, at page 65, I don't know if you heard that.
Bates number 65. Okay.
Base number 65, or the bottom number.
Correct. That's correct. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, what is this document? And just for your information, show them the previous page. Let me strike that, Your Honor. Let me ask a different question. This is your building inspection application that we looked at earlier. This is just another version of it, right? For the new single-family dwelling submitted in May of 2016.
I can't even read that.
Would you? It's the same one we've gone over earlier. I'm just giving you a point of reference that you signed showing 4,679 square feet, 402,000 value. Scroll down and you had this city official say that applicant found permits for lots 3 and part of 4, and the remainder is lots 1 and 2.
Yes, I remember this. Yes.
This is what you submitted to the city, right?
Yes.
Okay, next page, please, Rob. This is the city's response to that. The reviewer is Daniel, and it looks like NGO. I'm not sure what that name is. Do you know that person, Daniel?
No, not maybe.
Okay. And if we'll look at, it says down here, floodplain area, and it says yes. And the no is crossed off, AE. Not sure what AE is, but it suggests this house is in the floodplain. Do you agree with that?
Yes.
So y'all knew this house was in the floodplain?
Yes.
Okay, and down here, the next,
I believe you have to get, I believe Jordan disclosed to us it was in the floodplain when he showed us I'm not, it's circled here, yes. I'm not sure at the time when we knew, but I believe Jordan may have disclosed things to us. To be honest, I just believe so.
Well, you're the ones, Versailles is the one dealing with the city on this home, right? Not Jordan.
Yes, but from my memory, there's a floodplain behind it. I don't think the house is actually on the floodplain.
Okay, but
Creek behind it that's in the 100-year or whatever floodplain, but I don't
okay,
think the house is in the floodplain.
but you're aware that apparently on August 2nd of 2016, before you finalized your plans, this city official document says this house is in the floodplain area, right?
Well, it says no, and then it's crossed out, and then I don't know who AE is that it initialed it. I don't know who that is. So
I don't either. You're Versailles is the one that dealt with the city. What did you understand this to mean?
this is none of my handwriting. I don't recall ever even seeing this. Maybe my father did. The city wouldn't approve it if we did what the city approved. The city wouldn't have approved something if it was not supposed to be done.
They approved, well, strike that. The next couple of sentences lower than that says the front yard setback is only required to be 25 feet and that you've proposed 50 feet. Is that accurate?
That was the plans, I guess.
Okay, and that the side yard setback was going to be 5 feet and proposed 5 feet, right?
Yes,
And that the floor area over here on the right is 4,679 square feet of floor area, right?
yes,
And then it says, you're going to do landscaping, right? It says yes, down at the bottom.
yes.
Okay, and then let's look at this language. This is similar language to what we've seen before, where it says applicant found permits for lot 3 and part of 4. The remainder is lot 1 and 2, making lot 1 and 2 legal building sites. So that's the second time somebody's written that, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go to page, Rob, 59, please. Bates label 59. And by the way, Your Honor, these city documents are so out of order that I'm trying to jump around to keep it chronological, but might not be 100%. Just like this one is not, it's too far away. I'm looking more for, I'm sorry, Rob, go to 55, please, because this one's dated in April. 55 is dated, right in the middle, it says authorized date 8/9/16. And it says you're going to build on lot 1 and you're building a stories 2. I don't know if you can highlight those, Rob, below the last bar, lot 1, and then stories on the next column says 2. Is that what you understood, the city understood when you were applying for permits on this home in August of 2016?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and then let's look at, what's the date of this? Let's look at,
Set of plans we plan to submit, do you know,
let's look at 54, please.
permitting this project because the lot constraints and the city not having it platted in their system that
On September 20th,
sure I get these right.
go higher up, please. This is issued on September 20th at the top, issue date 9/2016, and it still shows lot 1, 2 stories on September 20th, 2016, right?
Yes,
Okay.
this is information the city fills out.
Let's look at 57, please, Rob. This one shows that on 11/4/16 there in the middle, that you're going to hire ISL Electric to do the electrical work. Did you hire ISL Electric to do the electrical work on this job?
Yes, I believe so.
Do you have any check to them? Because we didn't find one in the, to my knowledge, we didn't find one. Let me double check that.
with all due respect, sir, how do you think they did the work? You think they worked for free and didn't put a lien on the house?
No, I'm wondering if you hired a different contractor to do the work than you represented to the city who would do the work.
No, sir. This ISL Electric is like someone's master electrician company that they file under. You don't always write the checks to that name, and sometimes you write them to different names of the contractor. They don't always go to, from my experience and
Because the city won't allow you to hire a contractor who's not a master contractor to do electrical and plumbing work, correct?
and the city would not approve if ISL Electric didn't state that they did the work.
Okay, so you represented to the city that you had a master electrician doing the work on this job, correct?
I didn't fill out the electric permit or anything. What you do is you hire an electrician and you say, here, go get your stuff permitted, or you hire a plumber, you say, here, go get the permits for us so we can start, or you want this job, that's how you do it. So I didn't fill this out, and I didn't fill out the stories, 2 stories that we're talking about. This is all city filled out, I believe.
So let me back up. So you would have hired ISL Electric to go to the city and tell them they're the master electrician who's going to do this job, right?
Yes, I would hire somebody, and I would hire somebody by a name, and they would go, maybe they are ISL Electric or Milestone Electric, but I would hire someone, and depending on who they work for, their master permit, they'd file under this name. But like I said, I didn't submit ISL Electric, and I didn't submit this document. That's a city filled out document.
Well, the city filled it out. Well, we've already covered that. The
Someone
point I'm
had to
making is,
master license though, and I'm assuming that's where they got that information.
the point I'm making,
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and break for today. We're going to reconvene at 9 in the morning, and I'd like to get an estimate. Have you guys chatted like I instructed you to about the schedule for trial?
I haven't been able to do that yet. We've exchanged some emails, but we haven't really firmed anything up.
Your Honor, my suggestion is that we have a time limit and stick to it. I'm fine with whatever time limit they want to put. But that would be my suggestion, because I know we've taken a lot of Your Honor's time already, and we want to be expeditious about it.
Why don't I do this? I'll put you guys into a breakout room, and you guys figure out, a schedule for trial. This is going to get, it just seems like we're going incredibly slowly here. And so let's see if we can't get this finished, but I'm gonna put you in a breakout room so you guys can talk about this.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Judge, before you do that, can Mr. Ackles and I have a separate breakout room just for 5 minutes? I want to just cover something with them.
But Judge, if you're gonna end for the day, we're gonna take these depositions and we can talk about this, when we resume our Zoom for the depositions. And we'll work on it.
All right, I'm going to take you at your word, Mr. Ackles, that you're going to talk to Ms. Pettit Greason about this, and you'll have an answer for me tomorrow.
Thank you.
You guys, I will see you tomorrow.
9 o'clock, Judge?